photography. It's actually about street and travel photography. Now, the original link that we gave you guys, that's the link that didn't work. So I hope you actually are switching to this link. This is why you should always hit the bell notification. The reason it doesn't work is normally we are using Wirecast. Now, this is a very professional program with a lot of options, and you can create streams. But today we are streaming for the first time live via an official broadcast on the YoLive Box Pro. And this is a totally different concept. It's a box with several HDMI inputs, awesome HDMI output, line inputs, you can do videos, but it's all in one box, so we don't need the laptop anymore. We can literally just bring this to a location and we can start streaming in great quality. But it's the first time we're using it, so the first stream didn't went really well. So this time we are live. It is working now.
But
awesome.
Now I have to copy the link to the chat.
Okay, so we're gonna do the chat. We're gonna copy the link there. Annewiek is gonna do that. We're gonna extend it a little bit. So what I'm gonna do in between is we're gonna start the bumper for a digital classroom. So here we go. This is the bumper, so you guys know where you're looking at. Awesome. Now, Annewiek is getting everybody to the new stream. I just want to explain a little bit about Digital Classroom. Now, many years ago, I said to one of our friends in the industry, I said, I would love to do something like a classroom, but not a classroom in our studio. We do that every week. I want to do something that's a little bit more interactive and that also people from other countries can join. And that's actually when they gave me the idea, why don't you do a live stream from your studio and just make it interactive? And we were just going like, that's a great idea. But at that point, there weren't really a lot of options. It was a webcam and that was it. Nowadays, of course, we use 4 different cameras. We use overlays. Let me just show you the overlay. This is very cool because now it also works, of course, on the YoLive box. Isn't that awesome? Now you can just switch your overlays, and it's a very, very nice solution for streamers, but also for people that want to do a little bit more professional streaming, and it's just a very nice box. Okay, the people I need to thank is, of course, BenQ and Rogue. Both companies have been with us for so many years in Digital Classroom, and do remember, those companies make it possible for us to give you free content. Some people will, well, say a little bit like, hey, why is there advertising? Why is there a logo? Very simple, because those companies make it possible to do that stuff for you for free. Now, you also saw 2 new names, Calibrite and Cascable. Now, BenQ you know, of course, from great monitors. Now, of course, Rogue you also know from the Flash Bender, the magnetic system and the Expo discs. But Cascable is a brand new company for us. It's a new sponsor. And what Cascable does, it gives you an app on the iPad. It doesn't give you an app, you have to buy it, of course. And it makes it possible to shoot tethered to your iPad. No monthly subscription if you don't want to. You can buy the app or you can do a monthly subscription. I've been using it for a long time now and it works very well. It's very stable, it's insanely fast. And the main advantage of the iPad, of course, is that you have a long battery life, you have lots of light output, and it just looks absolutely great on a location, on a stand. No laptop that can fall over. The other company is Calibrite. Now, Calibrite, we all know, of course. In the past, you probably knew them as X-Rite. X-Rite still exists, but Calibrite is a new part of it. And I think Calibrite is one of the most important companies ever for the very simple reason. You have to make sure that your monitor shows you the images the way that you shot them. Also with street and travel photography. Calibrite gives you a lot of different options, starting with color checkers. It gives you analyzers, spectrometers. They have a whole lineup of systems that can really make your workflow a lot faster and calibrated. So make sure that you calibrate your monitors. I would like to thank, of course, Mario Mifsud, who's now online. Hello, Mario. And this is the cool thing. I can now see your comments over here. So I can literally just see. And the cool thing is also, I can bring you in the broadcast. Look at this. That's awesome, right? So whenever you guys have questions in between, just ask them at us, Annewiek or me. And when I see it in the comments, I will immediately just put it online and answer your questions. Or I won't put it online, of course. So let's start. We are talking about street and travel photography. Now, we all know, of course, that model photography is the thing that we do. But street and travel photography is always a challenge, you know. We travel around a lot and it's so boring to just sit in a hotel or in a conference room and don't do anything. So we always go out and we start shooting. But at first, my work, it just didn't look right, you know. I asked a friend of us, Jay Mizell, like, hey, what do you think of my work? And the only thing he said, you're a good fashion photographer. And that said enough, actually. So a year later, Jay invited us over to his home and actually showed me a lot of his images and gave me a lot of tips. And I want to share some of those tips with you guys. So let's start. And of course, there's a lot of tips from me also in there. But Jay really opened up my eyes like, hey, you have to look differently. And one of the first things he said, and that's, let's go to our picture in picture. There we go. You still see us underneath. He's saying, hello. So one of the first things he actually said, like, hey, Frank, when I look at your fashion photography or your concert photography, you always make sure that something jumps out. How do you do that? Let me explain. So this is the Concertgebouw. And this is one of the concerts of Wiebe Sujari. And Wiebe Sujari is a great friend of us, but in the past, we always shot from the main area where his parents were sitting and his friends. So we're shooting with a long lens, creating some nice images or an overview like this image. But it isn't really interesting. You want something more in your images, right? You want to tell a story. So sometimes I go a little bit more down in the event space and just shoot from a slightly lower angle. As you can see here, totally different look, totally different experience. But yeah, it's a classical concert pianist, right? So it's mostly sitting, and we want to make sure that we also have something that's a little bit more interesting. Let me change this camera just slightly, because we're now sitting with the two of us. There we go. So you wanted something that's a little bit more engaging, right? So I thought, you know what, let's not only focus on the artist, let's also do some other stuff. Like for example here. Now, what is the story here? Did she fall asleep? Because it's so beautiful? Did she fall asleep because she didn't like it? No, I don't think so. Or did she die? You never know, right? Because you see the image and your mind starts to go into overdrive mode. Like, okay, what's going on here? You can make your own story. And I think that's one of the most important things in fashion photography, portrait photography, and street and travel. Make your own story. But of course, lower angles also work. So in this case, shooting it low up. And then at one time, Wiebe said to me, like, hey, Frank, how can we improve those shots that we always take at the Concertgebouw? And I said, I really have no idea. The only thing I can imagine is if I'm laying under the piano. And he was just going like, why not do it? And I was going, no. So we ended up with me sitting on stage with Wiebe. And now I'm shooting from a totally different angle than anybody else can do. I can do this the whole concert. And the cool thing is, I'm a lot taller than Wiebe. So when he takes the audience's applause, I literally tower over him, hold my camera up and just point the camera down. And we have this beautiful shot here. But the cool thing is this is unique. Nobody has a shot like this because it's not allowed unless you know the artist. And this will come back in everything about street and travel photography. Now you may think, hey Frank, I already saw this, bye-bye. Don't. Because I start the seminar with the same image. Some images you already saw, but we added like a boatload of images. I think we added more than 100 or 150 new images. So if you think you saw something, keep watching. Okay, so let's talk about angles. Now, one of the things that I love to do is experiment with angles. And we can do that in our travel and street photography, but I also do it in our fashion shots. Low angles, wide angle. Now, this was one of the shots that we took during a trip to, I believe, Sweden. We had a great time there, and I think this is actually the trip where somebody ordered a Frank Doroff flashbender, and that was just the day before we would leave to Sweden. And this guy just ordered it, and we saw the address, Sweden, and Annewiek and I just looked at each other and said, you know what we're going to do? We're not going to send it. Hey, we're just going to deliver it. And I think this is one of the days that we were actually standing there with our RV. And you see the cows, right? And when you look at an image like this, there's nothing wrong with the image. I like it. It's a sunset. It just looks very nice. But what if you go a little bit lower and you use wide angle? Now look at this. Whoa. Are you doing fine?
It's just a painting.
It's a painting. Yeah, it looks nice. Or maybe like this. So now you can see that the cow is really looking at you. And I think that changes the whole narrative, the story. It changes everything. So angles are important. Low angles with cars, always cool. And of course, I'm a Batman fan, I'm a comics books fan, so I couldn't resist shooting an image like this. But low angles can also make something more dramatic, make it black and white, add a lot of contrast and some noise, and you have instant art. So lower angles and then a little bit of the sun behind, especially with wide angle lenses, it just gives you a totally different look.
That was late at night, I guess.
This was probably late at night. This one isn't. And this one is actually shot last week, just with my phone. We saw something like this and I was going like, oh, that looks really interesting. Just take your phone, just hold it like this inside, just press the button, and we saw what came out. And I just wanted to put this in here. It's not a great shot, but the way I got it was a great shot for the very simple reason I didn't even look at the display. Just hold your phone like this, press the button, and you get an image. And I think that gives you already a look that's unique, a look that nobody else will get. And sometimes you don't need to take the best shot. Sometimes you don't need to take the most interesting shot. But if you change the distance, if you shoot it from an angle where nobody else have ever shot it, you already have a unique shot. And that's what in street and travel photography, I think, makes the difference between a great shot or a mediocre shot. Now, all my images, I want to label that immediately at the start, are mediocre. I'm not a street and travel photographer. I'm a fashion and celebrity photographer, or in other words, we shoot people, photograph people. And we want to make sure that that's clear. So I'm not a street and travel photographer. I just show these images because I love taking them, and I hope you guys have something about it with the tips. So angles, very important. But when I shoot something from a low angle and I shoot it like this, it doesn't tell you a lot, right? How far am I away? What am I doing? And you probably already heard this from somebody else. Put something in the frame to give it scale. You can put something in the frame to give it scale, that's important, but you can also put something in the frame to give it more depth. Now watch this. This is the original shot. A trash can. Very simple, a trash can, but it immediately gives you more depth in the image.
Well, the weather wasn't that nice that day, so...
It was trashy weather.
Frank started to shoot trash cans.
Yeah, that's... Wait a minute, there's a shot in there for you too, so just wait. Same here. Have eye for detail, leading lines, weird stuff that you see like those boots. Just find the weird stuff. And as you can see here again, lower angles. It's still the angles part. It really works nicely. Now, when you're in a forest, I often find forests a little bit boring. It's nice to walk around. What I sometimes do is, these trees aren't that high. But if you have a 12mm on your camera or on your phone, just hold your phone or your camera really close to the tree, aim it straight up and take a shot like this. And immediately it looks like it's huge trees, right? It isn't, but it looks like that. And that technique is actually so weird. I always use that in fashion photography, for example, with the shoes of a model, just leading that line in. And with my street and travel photography, I always just took the shots from eyes perspective or something. And this is where Jay really opened up my eyes. Do the same thing that you do with your fashion photography. Go on the floor, shoot it up, zoom in, make gesture in a building. And I think that was the best tip ever, because it really works. Same here, these are just some images. I just wanted to show you what angles do. Yeah? Now, when you go to a city like New York is always breathing, New York is always alive, but there's also a lot of stuff that you normally don't see when you walk on the floor, on the pave walk. English is not my native language, so sometimes I say weird stuff, just bear with me. So in New York, we actually decided to go out with a 12mm lens and just shoot very, very weird angles. And something just came out, and I just love this shot. All the converting verticals, it bends a little bit on the top. You have that light on the top. Really interesting for me. Okay. And of course, I did want to do something a little bit special with the Chrysler building. I really like that building. And I didn't want to have it straight in the middle. It didn't work for me. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to sit on the floor and I'm just going to find a way. Now, luckily, Annewiek is with me. So Annewiek will stand behind me so nobody trips over me. And, you know, in the old days, people looked where they walked. Nowadays, everybody has their cell phone in front of them. So they actually trip over you if you do stuff like this. But I wanted those street lenses in. I wanted to have the flag in. And I wanted to have the flag in a certain way. And I wanted to have the Chrysler building, but also all the reflections on the side. So I said, you know what, the Chrysler building in the middle, it just didn't work for me. So I pushed it a little bit on the side, like, oh, hey, there's a Chrysler building. Like, you really have to look for it. And the flag, I was very lucky. I just shot it on, I believe, 5 frames a second. And one of the flags was absolutely great. So very lucky with the shot. Again, trees, shoot it against the tree, aim it up. Let me see. Hey, Michiel Everts is online. Hello, Michiel. Of Michiel, of course.
Michiel, his wife, you'll say, yeah.
Yes, nice. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Now, lower angles. Now, of course, you can do it with trees, you can do it with the street, but we actually, and this is one thing that I highly recommend you guys, go to the Apple store in New York. It's absolutely amazing, even if you don't like Apple. This was shot in the Apple store. Now, they have this glass staircase, and I was on the bottom, shut it up, and I was just looking at it and go like, you know what, this looks nice, but what if? Just look a little bit further, and I saw something really nice, and you know what, let's walk, aim the camera up, and of course you always run the risk that people send you out, but I was lucky. I was able to shoot it from this side. And I was going like, you know, I really like it. You see the Apple logo, you see somebody standing there, you see the building. I love the clouds here. But you know, sometimes good isn't good enough. You want more. We always want more, right? So you know what? Just walk underneath and just aim it up. And I saw this and I was going like, wow. Now you can't see the Apple logo anymore, but you still know it's there. And I took some shots where you saw the Apple logo and it just didn't work together with all the lines. So I was going like, let's ignore it's the Apple building. Let's just see it as a great shot. And I couldn't resist. So I zoomed in a little bit, stand back, and by zooming in a little bit, you crop out all the areas that lead your eyes, and what you get is the Apple logo. Just wait for a few seconds for the light to hit it on the building on the other side of the road, and it just reflected back on the Apple logo, and you get a really nice shot. At least I hope you guys also like this. Paul Lucas also...
Did we buy something in the Apple store?
I don't remember anymore. I was too busy shooting.
Pictures?
I think this was actually the time when we bought our first iPad.
No,
I don't remember.
We bought the iPad from Best Buy.
No. The first iPad we bought in New York. I know that very sure because I didn't want an iPad, and somebody showed it to me that you can read comics on it, and then we went to the Apple store.
That was Calibite 1, I guess.
Yes, and then we went to...
They were not in New York.
I don't know. I thought we bought it there.
It was Tampa.
Never invite your wife or girlfriend.
I know everything better.
Yeah. And here the same thing. And again, angles shouldn't only be from a low angle. It should also be from angled or just skew it around. But if you do it all the way. Don't do it subtle because people will go like, hey, you know that it wasn't straight? Yes, of course I know it wasn't straight, right? So make it really like over the top. And I love that little red light over there. You see that little on the left side and the right side?
I thought it was your mouse pointer.
No, here. It's that. I think it's a traffic light. I don't know, but I just like it. That you know, it's something that you look at your image for 10 times, 20 times, and then immediately you go like, oh, was that always there? Yeah, of course. Of course it was always there, but you don't notice it right away. And here it's the totally opposite. This is of course not New York, this is in the middle of the desert, but I'm using the same thing, a 12mm, sitting almost on the floor, shooting up and always finding that sun. And I think that's important in these kinds of shots, especially with a wide angle. It really captures that light and it gives you that beautiful lens flare. Nowadays, of course, we're using those K&F Concept black diffusion filters, so they give you even more lens flare. But in this case, we just shot it with a 12mm, sitting on the floor, and somehow it just distorts like crazy. I really like that. Same here, I love those old signs. I don't know how it's with you guys, but those are awesome. But angles can also be leading lines in combination with shadows. Like for example, you have very harsh shadows. I just love the reds. And somehow I'm just a sucker for this kind of stuff. Now, if you're in America, you probably see this stuff all the time and you go like, I don't know what that crazy Dutch guy like about this. But do remember, and this is one of the things I always tell, this is so much fun. I call it the great migration of the photographers. So we have photographers living here. And they travel all the way over here to take pictures, and they are awesome. And you have photographers that live over here, and they fly all the way over here to take pictures, and that also looks awesome. Go to your own area and find stuff that looks great and take pictures. The main advantage is, if you are in a location for the first time, you often take pictures from eyes perspective because you're already impressed, and you go like, wow, this is amazing, but you don't take the best shots. If you live in an area and you know exactly where everything is, you are forced to do it a little bit more creative because, well, I live in a very flat area. So when I shoot something that's flat, I go like, yeah, boring, I see that every time. So I'm already forcing myself to go into a field, go low on the floor, shoot it up with all the tulips, for example, and create something interesting that a normal tourist will go like, wow, that looks amazing. So sometimes it's better to shoot in your own locations than travel far away just for shooting. Unless, of course, you live in Emmeloord, where, Well, New York is more interesting for street
Well,
photography.
we did a workshop last weekend. It was called On Location in Emmeloord, and that was really nice.
Yeah, that's really nice because you can, you can shoot in, for example, Landschaftspark. That was the weekend before.
Germany.
And you get some great images in an urbex location. But in all honesty, the images I got last Saturday were way more advanced for the very simple reason. It's a location I know by heart. I live here. It's literally around our studio, like 100 meters in a circle. And those locations we walk by every day when we walk Chewy. So it's so much of a challenge to create something interesting there, but also because you know all the angles, it just takes out a lot of the guesswork. So guys, if you do street and travel photography, start in your own area.
Did you put the video online already about the last?
Yeah,
workshop?
Landschaftspark, yes.
No, but out the workshop On Location in Emmeloord.
Yeah, that was the review, the first review for the Geekoto. I didn't shoot anything else.
Okay.
Okay, panoramic shots very quickly. It's in your camera, it's often also in your phone. Just create some panoramic shots. It's nothing spectacular, but I just want to tell you first also some things that, well, that I think is interesting and that often a lot of people forget. And I like to put something in that panoramic. So if the stop sign wasn't there, for me, it's not interesting. So I was really going like, okay, I want that stop sign in and then do the panoramic because, yeah, it just fits the story.
But it might also be a perspective thing, how far and how big the land is.
Without any doubt. You have to catch something, and I think that's important. Like, for example, with this, it's all the ice that really drew my attention. It's not the Ferris wheel, it's not the boats in the back, it's that ice. And then especially when you look at the whole set, it just looks a little bit like a triangle going into the depth, and that's, of course, because you have converting verticals with wide angle. It's really enhanced. So at that point, you get a really nice leading line in your images, which I absolutely love. Now, when I do something like this, I wanted that little part on the left. Now, some people would crop it out, but for me, it gives scale. You see just on the edge, you see some people taking pictures. It tells the narrative, but it also shows you that you weren't on the water, but you were, for example, on, this is, I think, in Dumbo in New York. I love the place. You can shoot the whole skyline of New York. Brooklyn, yes. And here the same shot without that part, but now at night. And at night I didn't want to include them because then you only have this silhouette and you don't see anybody. So I think at night this looks a lot better. Now these kinds of shots were of course not taken with my phone. We take a tripod with us, put it on and then just shoot the images and stitch them later. Now with the tripod I do want to give you a tip, and this is one of the best tips I can give you. We have a lot of tripods. We can literally start a whole garden with tripods and we never use them. The tripods that I like are way too heavy to travel with. The tripods that I want to travel with, we put down and you see the camera going like this, and when I hold it in my hand, it's better. And a few years ago, we actually got a Benro, and it was carbon fiber. They gave it to us like, hey, do you want to try it out? Guys, spend money on a carbon fiber tripod for one very simple reason. That's the tripod you're going to use. It's very expensive. It's about 500 or 600 euros or maybe even 700 euros. But you don't need tripods that you don't use. And you need a tripod to be stable. And I don't use it a lot, but every time I use it, I look at it and I'm so happy with this tripod. It's very lightweight, so you take it with you everywhere. And then when you place it, it's incredibly sturdy. So spend that money on something with carbon fiber.
Well, I guess this time we borrowed
yeah, this time we borrowed it.
Yeah, because we don't bring it all the time.
No, we have so many friends in New York that we just ask like, hey, can you give us a tripod? And then we get a tripod like weighing 30 kilograms and it worked like a charm.
Well, in the States we always rent a car and...
yeah, we just drop it in the car.
But when we are going with the RV, we always take tripods. Yeah.
And here you can see the same location at night. So you see that every time it changes. So come back to certain locations if you have the option, of course. Roads. Yeah, the road that takes you nowhere, right? The big roads on everywhere. You see those roads and you go like, wow, wouldn't it be awesome to drive there for your whole life? Just look at the countryside. And I just love road trips. So when I started with my travel photography, one of the first things I did was shots like this. Just lay your camera on the road, set it on f/22 and just go, just shoot it. And in all honesty, even now when I look at those images, it does something for me. This is something that I like. It gives you so much depth and perspective. And I started doing that every time we went on a trip, get out of the car, shoot it. Now, of course, you sometimes do it also from the side of the road. And sometimes you do it in a big city. But you have to be careful with stuff like this because roads are really nice. but roads are also very dangerous. And one of the things is, of course, Annewiek and I always travel together. And sometimes it's very wise to do these kinds of shots at the start of the holiday. For the very simple reason, we're still friendly to each other at the start of the holiday. And as soon as the holiday continues, especially with the road trips, Annewiek wants to go somewhere. And then the navigational system says that's a 2-hour drive. After 1 week, if you have a smart navigational system, it will actually start going like, normally it will take you 2 hours. With Frank, it will probably take you 5. So it's very attractive for Annewiek to actually tell me to go sit on the floor on a busy road. Okay, honey, I will look. And then at first she will probably tell me, hey, there's a truck coming. But after a week, I'm not so sure anymore. No. So try to do the road shots at the start of your road trip. As you can see here, yeah, that's a joke, right? Of course. Yeah. Yes, it's a joke.
Normally I have him sit on the hot concrete or something.
Oh yeah, that was really dumb. This is one of the things that you shouldn't do. So we were shooting, I think that was a Hoover Dam, and it was incredibly hot. And you have on the floor, you have these, what was it? I think a bronze eagle. And I should have known better. It was like 40 degrees or 45 degrees outside, Celsius, so incredibly hot.
It was copper.
Copper probably, and I was wearing shorts. And Joe McNally will tell you, Frank is always wearing shorts, even when I have long pants. And Joe looks at me and goes like, really, do you wear long pants? Yeah, sometimes I do, but normally I'm wearing shorts. And I was just looking, I wanted to have that low angle, right? And I tell you guys, always sit on the floor, except when there's something like bronze or copper on the floor. I sat down, and the weird thing is you don't feel it at once. The first thing you hear is, then you smell like bacon, and then you go like, ow. So I went up and I had this whole red area on my...
really burned.
Yeah, it was not good. It's cleared up, but it took like 2 or 3 days, right, before it was gone. I was kind of like, oops.
It was way too hot, yeah.
Now, in something like San Francisco, where everything goes down, don't use that wide angle, but use your zoom lens and just zoom in. As you can see here, it really compresses the scene and it gives you even more distance. Some people will shoot roads with long lenses, some people will shoot it with short lenses. The trick is, if you want to make sure that the road looks endless, one could say shoot it with a short lens, because a wide angle gives you that wide look, right? Somehow, and that's my personal opinion a little bit, if I shoot a road on 400mm or 200mm, it looks even longer. Because somehow through that compression, you also sometimes get that movement in the air, that flubbering from the heat that comes off the concrete. And especially when you compress that with 400mm, the whole area in the back just becomes like this weird combination of floating lines and heat and different kinds of atmospheric stuff. It just looks amazing.
So how many lenses do you bring on a road trip?
How
many do you need?
You only need one. Oh, so, I should have. Can I please rewind this and give you a forget me pill? So we just watched Arrested Development with the forget me pill. So anyway, no, you only need one lens, and the thing is, you need more lenses. It's like guitars. You always need more guitars, although they have 6 strings. You need more, like a 7th string. But anyway, just be serious. The thing is, one lens is perfect because you can do everything with one lens, but one lens isn't perfect because you can't do wide angles, you can't do zoom. And a few years ago I tested for Sony the 24-240, that's a 10 times zoom, which normally means crap. And the first time I tested it, I was very impressed with the sharpness of the lens, the contrast, it looks really nice, but it was way too slow on my camera. And it was an A7R, I believe, 1 or 2. And a few years later, it just felt like I need to test that lens again. And I just longed for that lens for the very simple reason. With the 24-240, you have wide angle and you have zoom lens. So you don't need any other lens. Maybe a 12-24, but no other lens is needed. So I decided, let's try it one more time. Now the difference between the A7R II and the A7R IV in autofocus is insane. And the 24-240 is the first time that I used it on the A7R IV that I was satisfied. I'm not going to say it's a perfect lens. It's slow. It's very slow. So you don't do birds with it. But on the street, it's just fast enough to give you those shots that you normally can't get with the 24-70. But it also gives you those shots that you normally can't get with the 70-200. So in other words, you don't have to switch lenses anymore. Great lens. 10 times zoom, but awesome. And for street and travel photography, let's be honest, you don't have to take picture perfect, razor sharp on 200% zoomed in images. You want to capture the moment. Okay, here you see that little atmospheric stuff that I talked about. It's a little bit just flibbering in the distance. Okay, and here you see the same thing. This was, I believe, shot with a 400mm. And why do I know this? Look at the power lines. When you shoot this with a 12mm, the power lines will be totally stretched out. And this is what I mean by creating extra depth. With a 12mm, you should have seen, oh my, it goes on forever, but you aren't drawn into it. By zooming in, you really are drawn into it because everything is compact. So you can actually see further, right? Because you're using a 400mm lens. Looks a little bit weird, but it's just awesome. Same here, when I shoot this with a 12mm, I can never see that road going up the mountain. That was totally gone because, well, it's very small in the distance. By shooting it with 400mm, I just compress everything and now you see everything in the distance. So I really like using long lenses for that. Now, this one is funny. This is where actually the joke came off from do it at the start of the holiday. We drove over Route 66 and every time we saw the logo, I said to Annewiek, I really want to take a picture of that logo. So we did, I think, 4 or 5 before. And every time I took a picture, I said to Annewiek, you know, I'm not satisfied with it. I don't like it. It's too nice, or it was too broken down. And we actually found this one with all these asphalt line going through it. And the sun was already going down, that really red hue on the back. And I just went back into the car and I said to Annewiek, oh my, I think I got the shot. And Annewiek said, well, how can you make it better? I said, you know what? It would be way better if, for example, there was a train coming. I started the car and you know what? There was a train coming. So I went out again and then I got this shot. But as you can see, there was only like a few seconds in between. Now those trains are incredibly long. So I got back into the car. I said, yeah, I got it. So Annewiek said, is there any way you could improve this one? I said, it would be nice if there was a car all the way in the distance with its headlights on. Annewiek said, look. I said, okay, bye. So I ran out of the car, took a picture. I got back. I said, now I have to shot because
was so hungry.
Those trains are so long. So we had a lot of time and I said I wanted to start the car and Annewiek said, I said, don't, because my next answer will be a UFO. So we just drove off and later on we visited Rachel, right? The UFO city. Okay, the street. Now the street is for me awesome because on the street you can do great stuff. Now the next images we're going to go to really fast because there's a lot of images in there and I just wanted to show you what we do on the street. Some images I will tell you something about, but most images I will just skip very quickly because we still have 380 images to go. So compressing, you know, you want to show that there's a lot of people there, use long lenses and compress. This is on King's Day in the Netherlands. As you can see, everybody is crazy. That's normal for the Netherlands. But also look at this one. You see this guy with the nose, but you don't really see him, right? You see him, but you don't. Now the cool thing is if you add a little vignette, look at this. It's just a very little vignette and now he jumps out just a little bit more. Sometimes you just see weird stuff in the metro and just shoot it, but make sure you always have your camera with you because otherwise it's so difficult to take a picture. And in New York, I always liked that smoke was coming up. So I was just waiting for it. And then at one point, yes, there was this smoke, take a picture. It's not interesting, but you know, for us, it captures a moment because we don't see this in Amsterdam, for example, smoke coming out. Then we would immediately call 911 like, oh my God, Amsterdam is burning. But in New York, we saw it all the time and we were just wondering like, what is it? So for us as a tourist, this is a great shot. Everybody that now lives in New York goes like, yeah, seen there, been there, bye Frank. So that's the difference that I mean between tourist and somebody that lives there. Probably somebody that lives there will go down on the floor, shoot the smoke up with some birds and make a great shot. Hello Wim. So we also have Wim on board. So groeten uit Emmeloord voor Alkmaar. And this is also that I like. Those cards we don't have in the Netherlands a lot. So we do see them sometimes, but not a lot. And in New York, they're everywhere. And I just love that she's just standing there on the side, just creeping through that little part. I love the lunch, all the colors. I just couldn't resist. A little bit of smoke coming up. I have something with smoke. Same here. Do you see the guy with the baseball hat and the gloves and all that smoke? And again, those doors a little bit down. It's such, for us as Dutch people, this is a really weird situation. But we saw them so many times in Chinatowns, so I just love shooting that. And this is one of the things that I always do. Go to Chinatown or Korean town or whatever. If you see something like New York is great, but go to Little Italy, go to Chinatown, Koreatown, whatever. It's beautiful to take images.
Every time you go to New York, Frank wants to go
Yeah,
there.
I want to go there. It's so awesome. And I actually also sometimes try to isolate something. Like here, he was waiting on a crossroad. We're going to talk about that later. And I just love that red in the back, the yellow cap, and then his hairdo. The little ears and his backpack also with the red. So you see red in the backpack, you see it in the taxi, and you see it in the back and in the sign. So it just worked for me. Sometimes it's also a little bit more that you go like, what? So you see a waiting room, you see a priest, you see under video surveillance, and to go. And to go, of course, it's train station, to go, the waiting room, the priest, and of course under video surveillance. All those signs together just gave me something like, this is funny, I have to shoot it. But it's not funny enough to be in the part about humor, because in this seminar we're also going to do a part about humor. Okay. Sometimes black and white works, especially when they're wearing masks and you see those eyes. It just created in a black and white, and I just love that shot. But also people on the street, I just love those vendors. Just shoot them. Sometimes they look at you and you get a great shot. Sometimes they don't. And in New York, we actually also went, and I don't know which street it is. Maybe it's 22nd Street, but I don't remember. I told one of my friends, I said, I love the Rocky movies. And I have something with the Jewish people, and I just love the way that they have the hair drew and the hair. How do you call it? How they wear
the dreadlock? No,
it's not a dreadlock.
curls.
The curls indeed, and the hats, and they're very friendly people. The only thing is, in Manhattan, if you want to shoot somebody like that, they always walk away and they do their hands like this. And I knew that there were areas in New York where there were a lot of people there that actually are Jewish, and they are more friendly. So I was going like, where is that? And I want to shoot something similar to Rocky, where you have the metro going over the roads. And he said, Frank, it's the same area. So just go there. We went there with the metro. And again, I don't remember which street it was, but if you're ever in New York, go there. It's amazing. The people are super, super friendly. Williamsburg. The people are incredibly friendly. They will pose for you to shoot, and that's something that I don't like. I like it more spontaneous. And just look at some of those images we took there. You just stand on the street and everything just comes at you.
It's in Brooklyn as well.
It's really amazing. But sometimes you also find some interesting sign. Asshole, pick up your own dog or eat it. I just couldn't resist. Some people will go like, that's not funny. Yeah, that's the nice thing about humor. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't, depending on the person. I liked it. But also reflections, like for example the U-Haul, and then in the mirror you see something else. Again, I'm a mediocre street photographer. Take the tips and just think about what could I do. I really wanted, what are those shoes doing there? And a lot of people think that, right? You see those shoes and you go like, what? Take a picture of it. Again, it's a narrative, it's a story, and those pictures are the interesting ones.
Like the car?
Yeah, the car, so you know where it is on the street. Yeah. And I love shooting into stores that we don't see a lot, like a barber shop like here. Now, I don't harass people, so I don't go in shooting. Most of the times, I just ask permission, and I would never post a picture of somebody that looks weird, for the very simple reason, I'm not into that. I don't want to...
You mean handicapped?
Yeah, handicapped, or that look really weird,
or something.
And I just want to make nice images, and I don't want to hurt people's feelings, so I won't include those kinds of images. But sometimes somebody stands there and you just go like, this is interesting for us. And I love the reflections. Look at this. The reflections are awesome. Same here. I don't know why I shot this. Oh, probably because there's fail on the top. And now I remember, we had a lot of fails in that trip. So at one point I actually shot it. That's why it's there. Same here. I love that it's totally different from what we are used to. Again, the great migration of the photographers. Zoom in, shallow depth of field. And sometimes we have the hangjongeren and we have the hangouderen. Now that's Dutch. You probably didn't understand that, right? So that means that we have a lot of young people just hanging around in a little group.
Just chilling.
Just chilling. And in this case, we had some older people. Now, the thing is, how do you make images like this? You don't want people to look at you, right? And this is where I came up with the inversed selfie. So what is the inversed selfie? Now, the inverse selfie is not that hard. Now, when Annewiek and I travel and I see somebody sitting in the metro that's interesting or in the bus, I don't take my normal camera and shoot it. For the very simple reason, you don't want that, right? Because people can see that you're shooting them and maybe you want that spontaneous look. Now, of course, you can always go like, hey, sir, you really look interesting. Can I take a picture of you? But at that point, you get a post shot. What I do is the following. I will just take my phone. I will take Annewiek and I will go like this. And I will take the picture. Now, a lot of people will think that we're taking a selfie. I'm actually shooting the people in front of me.
I know.
And sometimes you zoom in. Do make sure that your strobe is off. Now, again, I will never shoot people that are disabled, homeless, or whatever. Not to make fun of them or whatever. So when I take a shot like this, it's really something that I want to capture, not to make somebody look ridiculous. That's totally against what I want. And in this case, he actually looked at me like that, what he's doing, and I was doing that reverse selfie. Same here, I just love those street shots. I also like to get little details like the rats. New York had a really big rat problem. They still have, I think. And I just like to include that in a picture because for me, that's like a reminder from, hey, I was on that trip. Oh, yeah, they had a rat infestation at that moment. Bikes. The guy just shouting at somebody like, hey, do you want ketchup with it? Those moments are... I immediately am transported back to that area, hearing that guy shout, do you want mustard with it or whatever? And it just brings back that whole set or that whole scene.
It brings back memories too.
Yeah, it brings back memories. And that's the thing, like you have to tell stories. Black and white always works. Again, small stores, I really am attracted to that. But also reflections, like from buildings, lower angles. Again, these are just street photography shots, nothing interested. Sometimes somebody spots you. This is actually a friend of mine, so this was a little bit planned. And again, reflections. I always am a sucker for reflections, as you can see here. But also colors, rubies, and again, using a longer lens to compress. This is why I love the 24 to 240. I can shoot wide angle and I immediately go to 240 and I have two different shots of the same scene. Same here, I shot it from the back and I just love the whole way that Coney Island just looks when it's not that busy, but it's also not very quiet. Nathan's, of course, when you're ever in New York, you have to go to Nathan's for his hot dogs.
The best on earth.
Oh, absolutely. Probably not, but it's the whole atmosphere.
It's all marketing.
And again, I love stores and I love it when people just go out and just look, you know. People in the image just makes it complete for me. And those are not actors. Now, this one is an actor. This is such a weird person, I don't know. The thing was, Annewiek is crazy about the Minions. So I'm crazy about Batman and guitars and comics. She's crazy about the Minions. So if you ever want to buy her a present, send her Minions. And there was this whole store with Minions. And Annewiek was going like, look, Minions. I was going like, ah, don't do it like that. And I took my camera and see, out of the blue just went like, Minions! And I just took the shot and I was going like, okay, this one is so fun. And I asked her permission. Actually, did I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I asked her permission to include it in the seminar and she said it was okay. At least she said no. So if you read tomorrow that we got a divorce, it would probably be that picture. Crossings. This is the tip from Jay Mycel. Find the stage and the players will come. Unless you live in Emmeloord, then you can wait forever. But in a place like New York, find the stage and the players will come. The other tip he gave me, if you go and you are looking for a girl in red shoes with a white trouser, walking a Dalmatianer and a yellow umbrella and a red coat, how much is the chance that you will find her? That's very little. But what if you go out and find a girl with a Dalmatian and a red umbrella? A little bit bigger. But what if you just go out and find anything that's interesting and just shoot it? And that's the thing that I did wrong. And that was unintentionally. And I think a lot of you guys do that. You go out to shoot buildings and you forget about metros, you forget about people, you forget about animals and whatnot more. If you just go out with a clean slate, take images. Now you might think that's not a really big tip. Trust me. Annewiek is behind me, next to me. When I started with travel photography, I had whole days in New York that I came in the hotel with only 10 shots, where I was happy with. When I started doing what Jay Mycel said, just take my camera everywhere and shoot the most insane things, like with breakfast. But shoot it different, from a weird angle, from a weird standpoint, from a distance, with reflections. You come home with 60, 70 images that you like. So retouching is a lot more work, so that's when Annewiek really likes it, because he can go to sleep and I'm just retouching. But crossings, find the stage and the players will come. One of the main advantages of crossings is people have to cross the street. So they're often not looking at the photographer. Just sit there for 5 minutes and you disappear. It's like you camouflaged and you get some amazing shots. Now, of course, not with people in there, but how about if we include people in there? Now, when I look at this shot, I go like, yeah, why did I shoot this? Well, she's wearing nice clothes. I love the makeup. But in all honesty, it's not that interesting yet, right? So the more you do this, the more you start to find out what's interesting. And then look at the zebra pot or the crossing. You have different angles, right? You have leading lines. You can use wide angles. You can do so much. So I started doing it a little bit more. And I found out that there are so many nice people and so many weird people and so many interesting people and so many interesting situations. I always go to crossings and I always just sit there and shoot. And watch this. You get so many cool shots and so many weird people. And of course you can shoot something like this, repent, follow Jesus, or you can just draw his attention and go like, huh, what? Click. And in the end he just waved. And this is one of the things, a lot of people are afraid to go like, I don't want to shoot people. Sometimes they are angry at me. Trust me, if you go up to somebody and say, hey, can I take your picture? You probably not go up to somebody like Annewiek or me, because we look pretty normal. But if every morning you have your mohawk on, you put your bone in your nose, you put your earrings in, and you put on your leather jacket with Queen and all the stuff over here, of course somebody will come up to you and go like, hey, can I take your image? So just ask those people. Most of the time they will say like, oh, I'm fine with that, just do it. Where do you want me to stand? And the worst thing that can happen is if they say no. So don't be afraid, just ask. This, by the way, is also, what was the name?
Williamsburg.
Yeah, it's a little bit mixed up. So here you can see, and this is storytelling. You see the tires with the shopping cart. You saw that before, right? And that was an uninteresting shot. Now look at this one. Here I just put it on the side. It's the same crossing. And on the other side, you see somebody with a big refrigerator. And you see the refrigerator tipping over. I take that shot, I already have it, right? And I was going like, should I help or wait? And of course, as a photographer, you wait. You don't want to put your back out, right? You just wait. So I was just waiting, and then somebody came on the right side and just looked at it, was going like, another shot, there we go. So it's the storytelling element that I really like about this one. This is also the Williamsburg crossings, and this is why it's a little bit mixed up, because I wanted to take these shots into the crossing section of the seminar. But this is all shot in that area. Oh, that one is double. Same here, I love contrasting colors. It's not because he's smoking or whatever, it's just that sweater, it really jumps out for me. And this is of course because he just looks absolutely awesome. Let's be honest, if you walk on the street like this, you want your picture to be taken, otherwise you don't walk on the street like this. So those people will love it when you take their pictures. He was very friendly afterwards. With the police you have to be a little bit more careful, but in this case he had absolutely no problems. Again, compression and changing your angles. I wanted to capture the busy streets, some small bikes. This is all crossroads, and as you can see, there's so much fun stuff going on. Oh, I have some images doubling there, sorry. And you see the weirdest people. Sometimes really weird people. Now, I told you I would never shoot somebody that looks weird. Okay, sometimes I break the rule because, well, let's be honest. You can't resist this as a photographer, right? Awesome guy, by the way. Walking the dogs. And as you can see, a lot of crossroads where we stand. Find the stage and the players will come, literally.
A crossroad, that you mean?
Yeah, the zebra passings or crossroads. It's just, yeah, it's such interesting area. Now this is fun. This guy, I don't remember his name, Shubi or something. He works at B&H in New York. If you're watching, you're still in the seminar. So I was at the crossroads just shooting some images, and he came up to me and he just kept walking up to me and I just kept shooting. And at one point, when he's too big in the frame, I don't want to shoot it without his permission, for the very simple reason, then it becomes a portrait. And for me, the reason I don't have problems shooting people on the street is if they are part of a total area, because then it's street photography. But as soon as they're the sole subject of an image, I really want to ask permission. So in this case, I just stopped shooting. He came up to me, closer. I think, oh my God, he's going to hit me. And he just said like, hey, are you Frank? What are you doing here? And that week I also gave a seminar there at the event space. And he said, hey, I work at B&H, I'm also a photographer. So we had a really nice conversation. And this is also how you can meet people. And as long as you are friendly, people will be friendly. And if somebody's really angry at you, de-escalate. Don't get angry back. Don't start shouting. Just say, dude, don't be angry, man. I don't shoot anybody. You just look so freaking awesome. If they still are angry, come on. If somebody tells you you're awesome, they can't be angry anymore, right? So de-escalate and don't be angry. Now, there was one time when I was angry, and that was actually during a trip. I think we stayed in the, what was it? The Hilton. It was paid for us, by the way. Otherwise, we don't stay in the Hilton. And I wanted to take a picture of the outside of the Hilton, and this lady came up to me from the Hilton and said, you can't shoot here. That's not illegal. And I said, wait a minute, I'm on the opposite of the road, other side of the road.
Illegal.
It's not illegal if I'm on the other side of the road. Come on. So I'm on the other side of the road. I wanted to shoot the Hilton Hotel. I'm staying there as a guest. No, that's illegal. No, it's not. And we had this whole conversation going down and forth, and I was just going like, man, I just want to shoot that picture. Just shut up. And at one point I said, you know what, I'm just going to imagine something. I said, okay, listen. It's illegal if there are police, you see yellow lines, and then it's illegal to shoot it towards the police. According to your own law, Article 144, subsection B. So in subsection C, it's actually said that if I have a press card, which I do have, I'm even allowed behind the lines. There's no police, there are no lines. And according to subsection D, everything that's on the other side of the road, I'm allowed to shoot. Even subsection E, government buildings from the other side of the road. Now subsection C actually says clearly that if it's a government building, you have to be at 50 meters distance. She said, okay, just take the image. Now, to tell you totally honest, I don't think there's even an Article 144 or a subsection or whatever, but I was so fed up and I knew that from the other side of the road, there was no reason why she sent me away. Just wanted to shoot that we stayed at the Hilton. I used this trick all the time after that, and it always works as long as you're very confident and you go in one flow. The only problem is if you have a lawyer against you, then they probably know the law better.
Or something of the police.
Yeah.
Somebody. Yeah.
Same thing, also Williamsburg, and they actually wave at you. So as you can see, people are always friendly on the road. The only thing is, don't be an asshole. Don't put a camera straight into somebody's face and start shooting. Give a smile, get a smile. Be friendly, get friendly. Be aggressive, get aggressive. And sometimes people are asses, and then just walk away. That can happen. Wide angles and crossings. Yeah, sorry for the double pictures. Now, this one I liked, and this is for me a border case where I go like, should I shoot an image like that? Because, well, I don't know what's with the lady, what the story is, but in all honesty, it's such an image that, you know what, I'm just going to shoot it. But if you have a little bit of problem with something like this, there is a solution for this. The thing that I liked about it was actually the bag she's carrying and the slippers. So I also shot a shot like this. Now for me, this one even works better than the other one. And I think that's the part. Just find some things in your shot where you can zoom in and tell another story. Oh, sorry.
I'm okay. Shouldn't we have a break?
No, we don't do the breaks. So if you're not inspired, what can you do? Well, you can find stuff that you normally don't see. For example, go to a parking garage. Find arrows, find lights, and challenge yourself. If you're not inspired, challenge yourself to shoot something. If you're in an area where there's nothing to shoot, challenge yourself to find something to shoot. Now for us, of course, supermarkets like this we also have, but not 99 cents. And I saw that somebody got $3 million from a 99-cent store. So I thought, you know what? If somebody wants to buy this one, for 1 million you can have it. So I was just having fun with that. But another thing is, of course, we never go to the cleaners, to the, how do you call it, to the laundromats. So I always take my camera with me and I go to laundromats. Now, I have to be honest with you guys, don't tell anybody else this. In Photoshop Lightroom, there's actually an option called Clarity, Structure, and Dehaze. Now, this area was really dirty, but it was not as dirty as you see here. I didn't add anything. The only thing I did is raise the clarity a little bit, add some structure, and you immediately get this really weird, zombie place. And then use dehaze just a little bit to make it even better. But literally, laundromats, I just love shooting them. Like the 125 giant washer. You can put a whole person in there. You don't have to take a shower anymore. You will be sick probably from all the turning around, but hey, it works. Same here. The laundromats for us, it's so different from what we see every day that I just love shooting there. And you're also there for an hour, right? So you can walk around and do some shots, but maybe there's nothing interested, and just I'm not so boring.
No, I need a break.
Oh, you need a break. And the other thing, of course, what you can do is in your hotels. I like the leading lines. I like the hotels itself. I like the lights. It's not interesting, but you know what you're doing here? You're training yourself to see stuff in the distance. You see leading lines. You know that when you aim your camera slightly weird, it looks weird. When you sit straight in the middle, it just doesn't look right. But if you go a little bit down and aim your camera up, you get something really interesting. And the cool thing is, you don't lose any shots here. But if you're on the street, you know exactly what works and what doesn't work.
It's also great when it's raining.
Yeah, you just go to the hotel and you take shots like this. And again, they're not interesting, but what I'm doing here, as you can see here, you have this large thing on the ceiling, you have the leading lines from everything on the sides, you have those two tables. It's not 100% symmetrical, but you know, you're training yourself here to do something when you're on a location and you see something that you immediately start to connect the dots. And that's important because you want to make sure that you shoot it. Okay, I will do a little video because Annewiek is getting tired, I believe, from my voice. So I will go for a little commercial for BenQ and we will be right back, I promise you. Okay, and that was from our friends from BenQ. And I do have to add one thing. Very soon, BenQ is gonna release a new monitor in the 2.7 series. And they have a totally new design. And one of the things that I found really interesting, the puck they use is now wireless and they have totally new calibration software, Palette Master Pro, and it looks absolutely amazing. So we're gonna do a review of that monitor as soon as I get my hands on it. We're gonna be, I believe, one of the first in the world actually to get that monitor way before the release. We get a personalized version and I'm very honored by that, but we are doing business with BenQ for many years now. I remember that they were on a trade show and they told me like, hey Frank, we love your work. Would you like to test a monitor for us? And in all honesty, I'm an ISF calibrator and we do a lot with home theater and calibrations. And I'm incredibly picky about monitors and about gear. And at first I said, you know what? I don't know. And yeah, maybe yes, maybe no. BenQ, I don't know the brand. I know the brand from the computer company and they were great, but I don't know it from monitors. I'm so happy that I accepted that invitation to test that monitor because price-wise, BenQ is unbeatable.
Yeah.
And when you look at the quality, the first monitors were great. They could be slightly below the famous monitors. I don't want to name any brands, but you know what I mean. They were slightly below, but half the price. The second monitors were more expensive, but I kid you not, they are awesome. And one of the things that I love about BenQ is that they really believe about calibration. It's not a monitor with a built-in calibrator, which I absolutely hate. Never ever buy a monitor with a built-in calibrator. Those calibration units are 3 stimulus meters. They have resin filters, and it means, if you are lucky, or glass filters, and it means that they are only working for a number of years. And if you buy a normal analyzer, like for example, I have a Calibrite over here. This is a normal device unit that you put in front of your screen and it calibrates. Those you have to replace after a few years. Now your monitor, we hope of course, will stay with you for a very long time, maybe 10, 15, maybe 20 years, you don't know, probably not. But the analyzers, they will not survive that long because literally they will deteriorate over time. And I strongly believe that when you deliver a monitor, you should use hardware calibration or at least support other brands than your own. And don't pay 2,000 euros for a monitor because there's a calibrator inside. It only works for a few years, and after that you need to replace that calibrator. So I really like that BenQ thought about that and just said, you know what, we do this. And that was what surprised me a lot, that a company that was so young with professional photography monitors, because they are very big in gaming monitors, but they weren't big at photography monitors at that point, that they already thought about calibrations. Because for gamers, calibration isn't that important. But for us as creators, calibration is the key element of getting a nice workflow. And then hearing a company that's totally new with photography monitors, not talking about the screens, not talking about light output, not talking about anything, but totally hammering down on that calibration part. And that just pulled me right into BenQ and going like, you know what you're talking about, I want to work with you guys. And I think it's now 10 years or over 10 years.
Something
We've
like that,
had every BenQ monitor they released, and I haven't been disappointed any time. And they even have a P3 monitor, which is a cheaper model. And it's just very well. So if you ever need a monitor, I highly recommend BenQ. Okay, and Eric says, great shots and advice, quite a departure from moody models in the dark. I never shoot moody models in the dark. They always have fun, dude. But they are a little bit dark sometimes. I totally get what you mean. Okay, let's go through. Now, people are, of course, one of the most important things in my work as a fashion photographer, but also when I shoot on the street. But before I want to go there, people are people, right? And people need memories, and we want to store those memories. Now, one of the things that I've been working with for many, many years, let me do this so you can see better, is SmugMug. Now, you know that my portfolio is on SmugMug. Now, make sure that you check them out online. They have a really nice offer with cloud storage, unlimited high-res storage.
Oh, you don't see the pricing.
Oh, you didn't put, yes, plans start from 133.
Yeah, but there's a little picture in it.
Where's the little picture?
Here.
Where do you see that picture?
Oh, it was over there. You removed it.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it's the YouTube stream is so far behind. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh yeah, okay, now you see.
Oh,
the picture. Yeah. Annewiek is looking on her phone and she still saw the picture in picture.
I'm also listening, so yeah. I hear Frank twice.
Yeah, once is already.
Both my ears.
But one is a minute behind. So.
Yeah, it's really horrible. Plans start at $133 a year. Without the discount.
Without the discount, so you get an
only extra. Like $106 US a year.
And we store everything I shoot on there. They even support RAW files and videos.
Yeah, and it's unlimited, right?
It's unlimited, so you just upload everything you want and you have a perfect backup. Of course, in the studio we use 2 Synology NASs connected to each other in mirror. You can trust one NAS, but if a hard drive fails, that's no problem. But what if your NAS fails or your power supply goes out? Now, with Synology, we didn't have any problems yet, except one time that a power supply ended. And that was actually a real problem. Luckily, we had another NAS, so we could continue. We got the new NAS in, and we could just mirror it again and work. So even if you are using a NAS, also make sure that you always have a second backup. It costs you a lot of money, but imagine this. What would you pay if tomorrow you lose all the images you ever shot in your life? I think it's unbelievable how much you would be willing to pay. Invest it in a few hard drives and a NAS. connect two NASs together so you have a nice mirror, and then when it's mirrored, you take one NAS and you put it in another location. If you have a big house, you can put it in the front or in the back. If you have two buildings, put one NAS in one building, one NAS in the other, and now create a connection over the internet that those NASs constantly are syncing with each other. And what we have, and if you guys are interested in it, I can make a video for you guys. We have a setup here where we actually have the two NASs connected, and Synology has really nice software where in the software you can literally just say, okay, start the NAS up at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I have both NASs starting up at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now start the mirroring. As soon as that's done, just turn off all the NASs, and we can literally just start them up via Wake Up on LAN. I can actually approach the NASs from foreign countries where I'm at. They are approachable over the internet. And Synology is just a company that really thinks about us as creators and not just a business solution, but they really think about photographers. So when Annewiek comes in, her iPhone immediately starts downloading all the images. We even have time machines on the NAS because you don't want time machine on an external drive. On the NAS is way better. So she has a folder Annewiek time machine. I have a folder Frank time machine. And as long as the NASs run, we have our time machines there. So a very nice solution. Okay.
So how many backup devices do you use? I
use two NAS backups and I use external SmugMug, and I have some images that I found really interesting and really important, like documents, I have on external drives also. Yeah. So in literally from the important stuff we have 4 backups, one offsite and 2 in-house and 1 just wherever we are.
We also use Dropbox, iCloud,
OneDrive.
and OneDrive.
Yeah, but those are not really suitable
not for pictures, no.
No.
Okay.
Okay, let's continue. People, always ask permission, and he reminded me of...
The Matrix.
No, he reminded me of Clark Kent. He doesn't look like Superman, but the hat, the tie, and the way that he's standing there, I was just going like, oh man, it's just Clark Kent from Superman. So I just took a picture, and he just loved it, as you can see here. Now, if you're afraid to take pictures or you don't want to ask people, shoot metros that are driving away, because people can't get out, right? So you just shoot them. And sometimes people go like this, and I go like, oh, you totally missed the point, because now I'm going to use that shot.
Hey, you sent me that one in black and white.
Cool,
Why?
right? I also have it in black and white.
Ah.
Now, we were at Starbucks just taking some coffee, and I just love the scene. And you see that the Starbucks logo is just a little bit on the back. Now, one of the things that I made a mistake in the past is that I always wanted to include everything. And that's almost always ending up in wide angle shots. Just accept that our brains are very well capable of filling in the blanks. So in this case, I don't have to include the whole Starbucks logo. Just a small part, and this is why it's in the seminar, because it's not an interesting shot per se, but I just wanted to explain to you guys that you don't need to include whole logos or whole buildings. Find the gesture of the building. That's what Jay always says, find the gesture of something. And what is the gesture? You can fill that in for yourself. For me, it's the story, the narrative, and my brain will immediately know when it sees that's Starbucks. So place, location, and story. This guy absolutely loved to be photographed. He just kept going on with his shoe repair shop, and he was telling us all these kinds of stories. And I think that's so incredibly awesome when you walk on the street and you shoot people, that you get life stories. You get people that literally tell you stories about their lives, about what they do. This was shot in Dubai, for example. And those people tell you so many stuff about where they live, the customs. It's just insane. You don't take just a picture with you, you take experiences. And you, of course, give the people pictures. We always send the pictures to people.
If they want to.
If they want to. Now this guy, I have to tell. This is the only image that I didn't ask permission. And the reason is very simple. This guy didn't want to be photographed. But I just loved it. So I was going like, I need that shot. So there's something else that you can do. Now we all know now the inverse selfie. But what about this? The inverse, not selfie, but something else where you go like, what? Long name. In other words, I'm doing something else. Now we all have displays on the back of our cameras. Now imagine this being a Sony A7R, let's say 10. It's a smaller version, right? There's no lens anymore. So what you can do is the following. When you look through the viewfinder, you see an image, right? But when you look on the display, you also see an image, and you can set it up on your camera to switch. Viewfinder, display. Viewfinder, display. Now next to this guy, there's this fountain with a tree. I didn't find that interesting. I found him interesting. So what I did, I was looking at this guy, and all the tourists that came by with his camera, he was like this, like this. He didn't want to be photographed. And he's such a nice guy. Why does he want to be photographed? So I was going like, let's do it differently. So I aimed at the fountain, took a shot, checked it on my display. And you see my finger is hardly moving. And now I put my finger up all the way high, taking the shot, checking it on my display, not looking at him, just checking it on the display, face recognition on. And the only thing, and you can see it in his face, he was thinking like, what is so interesting about that tree and that fountain? While in essence, I didn't shoot the fountain, I shot him. Again, I'm not proud of doing stuff like that, but sometimes you just need to, right? You're also a photographer. You want to capture stuff that sometimes maybe is on the edge of yes. And these kinds of shots, look at him, he just saw me, he said, hey dude, how is it? And I took the shot, and after that he just waved, so you know it's right. And him I didn't ask permission, I just liked it. So people on the streets are always awesome. Now this guy is laughing, and you know why that, I can't say that word without bleeping it out, but I hate his guts. And you know why? When you park there, there's no sign of how much it costs. And we were really in a hurry. Annewiek was hungry, I needed to go to the restroom really bad. This is in the middle of New York, and we just parked there for half an hour. 60 freaking bucks for half an hour, and you can't take your car out. So he was just sitting there, 60 bucks. And I was going like, no, we only went here for half an hour to go in, grab something to eat and pee. 60 bucks. I was going, no, you don't listen. Half an hour, 60 bucks. I was going like, ah. So I just gave him 60 bucks and I drove out. And a friend of mine later says, yeah, that's exactly what they do, because you can't park there anywhere. So he has the only parking spaces. And I was going, so my tip for you guys, always before you go in, ask, what is the price? Because this was the most, it's even more expensive than staying in the Hilton.
Yeah, but there was no parking space elsewhere.
No.
So.
Okay, the drummer. And I don't know what's going on here, but he probably had an itch. This guy, awesome. I was walking through his street, and I saw the puppets, and I was going like, that's interesting. So I took a shot of the puppets. I didn't even shoot him, just the puppets. And he ran out, sir. And I was going like, oh no. So I turned around and said, yeah, I'm so sorry, I didn't. No. Do you want to take a picture of the puppets and me? I was going like, the puppets and you? Yeah, I love the puppets. You know that's Hillary and that's Clinton? I said, Clinton? No, it's Trump. I said, Trump? And at that time he wasn't president yet.
It are dog toys, right?
Yeah, they were dog toys. He said, and Trump can be chewed on.
Yeah.
And I was just going like, okay. And he was just telling me all these stories about these dolls, and I just took his picture. And sometimes the stories are interesting with him. They were interesting, but not really. And I was still a little bit upset, like I thought I didn't do anything wrong, and he just jumped out at me, oh, sir. So in the end, we took the shot, and that's why I included in the seminar. Sometimes you think you do something wrong, but in essence, they just love to be on the picture. They want to interact with you. So guys, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to shoot. Just always, and that's what I say to Annewiek also, as long as you give respect and give a smile, they will only give respect back and a smile. And if they don't, run. I'm lucky I'm really big. Now, at some I always love the name Nuts for Nuts. So every time when I see a Nuts for Nuts, I just have to shoot it. I don't know why.
And we smile.
And these people in those old, like, where they really work with their hands, those people love it when you take pictures of them, because it's a dying art. They love to tell you about everything, that there are different nails for every shoe. And it's just, you remember one day on the flea market, we saw this guy and we shot him, and he just kept talking. And at one point he said, you know what, I really like you. I want to show you my other store. And remember the zombie survival store?
Yeah.
There was this huge, like, how do you call it, rolluik in English? What you put in front of your windows when you don't want people to break in, from shades, but then from metal. So we went in there and all the stores were open except that one with the shades all the way down. And shutters all the way down. And he just pressed his remote. And now imagine this. Think about The Walking Dead. So that came up. And I was just looking at it. And I just saw on the bottom, I saw all these knives. And it went up and I saw machine guns. And I saw shotguns, machetes. And then finally, the final part came over and you saw the underside of the letters. And I was just going like, no, really? And yes, the zombie survival store. So I went in and I think I stayed with him for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And he was just going like, you know, the apocalypse is coming. The apocalypse is coming. It's coming very soon. And when you need guns, when you need machetes to fight off the zombies, you can. He was totally into it. He believed for 100% that he had the only store where they sold the zombie survival kit. And hey, it's America, so probably all those guns were real, especially the area where we were in. Now, pawn shops, we always go to pawn shops. I love it. It's a shame I can't travel with guitars back, but sometimes you can really get some cool stuff at pawn shops. You remember the little doll we bought from the vampire-like doll? And I bought it at a pawn shop for $5. And I just liked it. I love everything like old monsters like Frankenstein, Dracula, but then the universal monsters, right? Boris Karloff. And one of the things, by the way, just as in between, did you know that Bela Lugosi, who played Dracula, didn't speak any word of English? So every time when you hear him going like, listen to the sound of their voices, children of the night, you remember that, right? He didn't speak any word English. He just learned it by listening to how your voice goes, and he just emulated it. That whole movie he just emulated. And another big thing about that movie, I just love telling some stuff about movies still, is that during the daytime, they actually shot the American version, and then they left the set, and then I believe the Spanish version came in.
Yeah.
And they shot the whole Spanish version so they could listen to the Americans, see how Bela Lugosi was playing it, and then the other ones, they did it probably better, but they didn't have Bela Lugosi. And Bela Lugosi is, of course, Dracula. So again, stores and people. And again, you see all those smiles in the pictures. That's the most beautiful part, if people just love it. And they love to show their stuff. This was a guy who owned a ghost town. And this is one of the tips I also want to give you guys. Now, sometimes people really don't want to be photographed. And of course, they don't want to be photographed, right? You have to respect that. But sometimes you know that they probably will be photographed if you ask it nicely. And I didn't want to ask him because a lot of people asked him and he said, no, I'm not interested enough. And I think he is. And so what we did was something else. And I did the same thing later on with a lifeguard. I just talked to the guy. I said, how the heck do you end up being the mayor of a ghost town? He said, it's my father's town, and we just built it up. Like, we started with one house, then we added another one, and then some tourists came by, and they were doing a road trip. This was along Route 66, I believe, or anywhere in that area. And they just kept coming, and yeah, we started building, and now we earn our money with this. I said, man, that's so awesome. And I think after 10 minutes or so, I said, hey, do you sell those Cokes? Yes, okay, give me a Coke. Annewiek, do you want something to drink? Yeah, so we bought 2 cans of Coke or 7-Up or whatever. And I walked away. Now, do you remember Columbo? Columbo had this one thing where always when he said like, okay, you're innocent. And then he walked away and he said, and he turned around. Can I ask you one more thing? And he always, that was the moment where Columbo solved the mystery. So I walked out, I opened up the door, and then I closed the door and I walked around and I said, I don't remember his name, and let's say Henry. I said, Henry, can I ask you one question? And of course you can say no, but I would love to take your picture. Sure, take it. And I think I'm one of the only persons that actually took the shot. Invest in the people that you want to shoot. Invest. Talk to them. 1, you get great stories. 2, you have a fun time. 3, maybe they take you out or they show you something that you never expected. But 4, you get amazing shots that nobody else gets. A comic book store owner. He's supposed to be a well-known guy in the comic book stores. I don't know him, but I was actually walking through the store looking for, I believe, Heart of the Vampire from Batman. I finally found it online. And he helped me out and he was going through it. It was, I believe, number 420 or whatever. I just went through it. 19, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, 21, 21, 21, and number 20 was missing. So finally I found it. And I walked out of the store and he saw my camera and he said, do you want to take a picture of me? So sometimes they also ask, and I said, yeah, I would love to take a picture of you in your store. And he was, I don't know what he's doing actually, but he said, okay, let me sit down and do some stuff. So he was actually creating the whole set for me. So sometimes that just happens. Take it and take the shots. These are the owners of the largest, how do you call it, thermometer in the world. This is along Route 66, and I was shooting the thermometer. I was going in and taking some brochures, and then this lady came up to me and we started talking, and she said, I'm actually the daughter of the founder of that thermometer, and my husband is here. We had a really nice conversation, and the same thing. Can you walk outside with me? Let's take a picture. They loved it. We took a wide angle out, took the shot, gave him the images, and you know what? Maybe you have friends later, maybe you never talk again, but at least you get a nice shot. Now this one is awesome. Annewiek was actually, I believe, on the beach, and I saw this one. I was going like, what is this Shango for president? What is this? What happened?
You talked with that guy?
Yeah, a long time. I couldn't get away. He was just clinging on to me. So I was shooting these images, and then he came out, and he said, okay, I want to tell you a story. And this is a real story. I was going like, okay, now I'm going to get something. And this is what I mean. Most of the stories are forgettable. Most of the stories are great and they bring back memories when you see the image, but they're forgettable. This story isn't. Because trust me, this really happened. One night, he was in his home and a UFO crashed. And out of came a bear, a teddy bear. And the teddy bear started to talk to him. And at that point, I was going like, he's pulling my chain. But he was so serious. He said, and the teddy bear said to me, I want to run for president. And if you don't do it, I'm going to bite you. And at that point, I really had to go like, don't laugh, don't laugh. This whole story came over like how he wants to bring peace because he's coming from a peaceful planet. The guy was totally into it, believed it for 100%, and he was trekking through America, I think he never left California, to promote him for the 42nd or whatever president. I thought literally he was pulling my chain, but why do you drive around with a car like this? Later on, I talked to several people and he said, oh, you talked to him. Yes, he really believes that. Those stories, I will tell them still when I'm 80 years old, because those are the stories that you remember. And if I didn't bring a camera, I would have missed that. See all the presidents, and then he wants to have the teddy bear. It's just insane. Every time I tell the story, I'm going like, wow. The others, this is the part where I always go like, okay, this is the part where it's a little bit tricky. I don't want to shoot homeless people, but sometimes I do. Sometimes I want to just give it a little bit, but I'm not going to look out for it because I think those people are not to be shot in pictures. You need to help those people, and that's very difficult. So sometimes when I take those shots, I do it because I really think it's interesting. For example, the limo next to the guy with all the cards. So you see the difference between the total richness in one city and the total disaster with other people. Why not help those people out? Why not spread that wealth around just a little bit? And you see I don't include his face, and that's not by accident. Same here, the naked cowboy. Now, of course, the naked cowboy, that's free game, right? If you stand nude on Times Square, you're mine. This guy, and literally I did talk to him, but I just love the way that he looks with the boots and the head.
He was cold.
He was very cold. Now this one should have been better if I shot it from a slightly different angle, but I just loved again that contrast between being homeless and then one rap artist with big chains and everything. Why is it so unfair that a lot of people have everything, 1% have everything, and 99% have nothing? It's not fair. And same here, going through the trash cans. And the weird thing is that somehow you didn't expect it here. This was Stockholm, I believe, a very rich area, and you still see people going through the trash. Very confronting. This is Los Angeles, and of course Los Angeles has tent city, huge problem. And the black and white images, the only thing I wanted to do is just remember it for myself. And at one point, a lot of people shoot homeless people and they go like, oh, it's amazing, they're really easy to shoot. And I always go like, yeah, but no, you're taking advantage of somebody that already is down. And you can better help those people instead of taking pictures of them. But when I was in LA, they really told me like, we have this huge problem with homeless people and I want to show you it. And there are certain things in my life that really made a big impression, and this was one. At one point, and Annewiek remembers it, I really put the camera away. I couldn't shoot it anymore. You see people dying on the floors, on the streets. You see people totally being eaten up by insects, and the only thing that goes through your mind after taking some shots, you just feel it's so unfair. And then those shots can really tell a story. And I think that's the difference between how you bring those images. I always tell the stories behind those images to make you aware that the next time when you see a homeless people, maybe don't shoot it, but give him something to eat. Don't give him money, give him something to eat or to drink. Now, this isn't a homeless person. This was actually shot through the window of the car and there's no blood. It's actually just water and this is just a drunken guy. But by creating it in harsh black and white with a lot of noise, it looks like it's almost like a victim from a shooting. The reason I have it in here is how much impact you can create by creating something in black and white with a lot of contrast. As you can see here, totally different narrative. Black and white, this is Tent City. This is the area where here I'm still shooting and at one point I just put the camera away. Just couldn't do it anymore.
But this is also from outside the car.
Yeah, just look at this. Just realize this, guys. We are watching this on YouTube. You're watching this on a monitor that costs more than those people probably have in their whole life. Look at how many people there are on those streets. I just had to shoot it and after that I felt bad for a week. And I think then it did the job. Now this one I just found funny. When you look at the girl is standing there, they are having this baby stroller, and just look at the guy in the wheelchair. He's having like a belly, like he's pregnant. And at that point there was a lot on the radio, like men also want to be pregnant, right? We want to have equal rights. I don't want to be pregnant. That's something that Annewiek can do. I don't want that pain. Come on. Equal rights, okay, but not equal pain, right? I mean that in a positive way as a joke, right? But here I just saw it and it was on the news and I just couldn't resist. I just shot it. Sometimes that comes together. And through the window, a lot of people will tell you this doesn't work. Yes, it does. Shoot through the window of your car. Do make sure that you're not driving. Sometimes we call this drive-by shootings. Annewiek drives and I take the shots. Or Annewiek makes sure that the camera is totally ready. And when I see something, give me the camera. In the end, Annewiek will just drive. And it will give you sometimes cool shots like this. Or this, and it's just through the window, man, because you can drive through and you just take the shot so you don't have to stop. And that's the worst thing, stopping somewhere to take a picture. But through the window, you can just keep shooting. This is all shot through windows, all in cars that were driving.
You need clean windows though.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't. Reflections, remember I already talked about reflections? Here you see a lot more. And the cool thing about reflections is you can see it as alternate universes. They come together in a new shot. You combine them and it's just awesome, man. You can do so much with reflections and windows. You can tell the story or you can use a mirror. You see the guy looking and you see the guy, the people sitting there. See him reading a magazine and you see the people walking around. I just love these kinds of shots. They're very creative. It's not Photoshop. This is literally straight out of the camera. And animals. And we love dogs. We love all kinds of animals. But sometimes on the street you also see animals. And when you start out with shooting animals, you probably shoot stuff like this. From a high angle down. You don't need to ask for people, right? Because you don't have the guts maybe to ask people. Just do ask people for the very simple reason. When you shoot it like this, it's street photography. But when you start to go lower on the floor, it becomes something completely different. Angles. And of course, nice dogs. How about this one with the sunglasses? Just ask permission. You see it's the same guy also with the sunglasses. Or somebody that's sleeping and the dog goes like, stay away from my master. You thought it was the same dog? No, it's another dog. Same here. And you have to be fast. And that's something that Jay Micel always says, like, you can't take the freaking image if you don't have the freaking camera. And trust me, he's from New York, so freaking sounds a little bit different when he says it. But he's absolutely right. If you don't have your camera with you, you can't take the image. And I still remember the first time we met Jay. Remember that? I always looked up to Jay Micel, was like my mentor for street and travel photography. And finally, he's a very, very nice guy. But the first time at Photoshop World, I was so afraid, and I was just sitting there going like, oh my God, that's Joe McNally. Oh my God, that's Scott Kelby. Oh, that's Jay Micel. And I had my strap of my camera just over the table. And the first thing that Jay said, he was just standing next to me, and he has this low voice, and he goes like, don't put your strap like this, somebody will kill your camera. And he just put it up and he walked away. And it took me, I think, a year before I dared to ask him for an interview. And then he was the nicest guy ever. And just an amazing guy to talk with, many, many stories. And I'm so sorry that after an hour I pressed stop. Because we talked for another hour and I wish I would have recorded that. There was so much wisdom in that guy. every word he says
He's
is
still alive.
perfect. He's still alive.
He's 92. He wrote
Yeah.
some books. Yeah.
If you don't know Jay myself, find
Yeah.
him online. I think he's one of the greats with Henri Cartier-Bresson. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And without any doubt, just find Jay Mycel. He has a lot of videos also on Calibite 1. Make sure you check it out. Great, great teacher. Also here, wide angles. Humor. Now this is the part that I love to do. I love humor in images, but they're very difficult to find. They're very difficult to shoot, and you have to be open for it. So watch. This is my favorite part of the seminar. Now, of course, you can do it easy with dogs, or with skateboards, or with people. When I look at this shot, I go like, you know what? It's not that interesting, right? It's okay. This one is more interesting. Now, when you are on the beach, they always steal your bed, right? Not if you have these two guys watching it. Watch out, these are the mafia, right? And this is not Photoshop. I saw him standing there and I was just going like, I have to shoot this. It's like they're guarding the beds. But that's still not there. It's suggestible. It's like it's humor, but it's not. It's funny, but it's not. I have to make it more clear that something is fun. Loungers, yes. I have to make sure that people get the message. So I started to look for more humoristic. And of course you can play with words like burgers and dogs. Do I really want to eat a dog? Of course you know they're meaning hot dogs, but hey, burgers and dogs. But this is still very subtle. Some people go like, hey, that's not funny. How about this one? Regular or decaf for a dog. Now we're getting into the area where you go like, okay, now it's getting funny. Now we are getting some connections which are literally not open for discussions. This is funny, but maybe it's not funny enough. So you start to look at something and you know that there are certain things that translate well in Dutch or in English and some things that don't. Well, this is a hotel, and when you look at it from this side, you go like, oh, interesting hotel. It's an old hotel, but you wonder, why is this hotel empty? Like, why? Well, very simple.
What's
because
beeping?
It's a bad hotel. That's outside. I hope. Yeah, that's outside.
Oh, okay.
It's a bad hotel. Now, bad in Dutch means actually bath. And this is very close to the beach. But do you really think that anyone from another country than Dutch will book this hotel? No, because it's a bad hotel. So now we're getting into the area where you start to learn with where you start to go with words or locations, like photograph this. Really? No. But this is still subtle. Wi-Fi here. Now we're going to the area where it's a little bit more clear. Or recharging. Or I beg for life. Now, words are always fun because words can be very, very weird. Like, for example, why did I shoot this one? Oh yeah, English breakfast. Cheeseburger and sandwich. Now, you might go through this and you go, this looks pretty interesting, but see at breakfast. Do you see that it's spelled incorrect? Funny, but not funny enough. Now we're getting into something with letters that I think is funny, because you have to be really careful when you advertise something to your customers, because maybe they don't like it. Like in the Netherlands, you can't say bloody hell good offers on. I don't know if in your country that's okay, but in the Netherlands, people will probably go like, ooh, that's very, very harsh. But this one, yeah, now we're in the area where you go like, okay, this is so funny. Everybody will get it. Like, bacon is our god. And then next to it's godless, so are we. I don't think they're connected, but I think the guy that put them up there is going like, this is funny, let's do this. So maybe they did. Now, this one might not trigger a bell yet, but remember this one. It's great to be terrible, you know. Now, terrible is, of course, bad, right? So remember that one. So we were in Copenhagen, I believe, and they showed me this one. I said, what does that mean? He said, that's when a skateboarder breaks his leg, because you have to be careful there. I was going like, that's not funny. But I did shoot it. But the next thing that he showed me, that was pretty funny. Now, when you look at this, do you see anything wrong? I will wait for a few seconds so you can think about this. Let me check my batteries for now. Okay, looks fine. So do you see anything funny? Probably not, right? Okay. Do you see anything funny now? I can tell you that the city didn't find this funny at all. Now, when you look at the front one, that's the old one. Now when you look at the back, those are the new ones. I kid you not. Maybe you don't see it yet, but imagine this. How do you tie up your boat or your ship? Do you get it now? This actually was national news in, I believe it was Sweden.
Yeah.
They spent a boatload of money on making this new. And when you look very closely, the first one is actually aimed this way. So when the rope comes from the ship, it goes over here, it connects here, and when the ship floats off, it's locked. The new ones are placed like this. So if you lock your ship like this and it floats away, bye-bye boat. So I believe it was like 100,000 euros to fix.
Yeah.
And
didn't fix it.
the thing is, the first image, you only saw it the other way around. And then you have to know the area, you have to know that it's for boats. But by showing the front one, that's actually the correct one, people will look at those shots like, what's going on? And then they will spot it and they will start laughing. So mostly in the seminars, I will also let people, when we do it live, find the problem. And it's very quiet in the room. And they go like, I don't know why this is funny. Why? I don't get it. And then you hear somebody going like, literally on the top of their lung, laughing out loud, and you go like, they're the other way around, and then the whole area goes like, really, and they started laughing. So sometimes an image is also cool when you just look at it for a while, and then you get the joke. And sometimes it has to be right in your face. The criminal's outside and the police is inside, and of course eating donuts. Or how about this, in the middle of the desert, no swimming? Yeah, sure. Or new home. Now, in all honesty, I wouldn't build my living room or my bedroom over there, because if you wake up in the morning and you fall out of bed, you literally are in your bath and you just are clean.
In the river.
In the river. Or how about this? Do you see McDonald's? Yes. But this is about, remember about angles and finding stuff? So now read with me. We start from the left side, McDonald's. Okay, we go over the corner, McDonald's. But do you see what's on the other side? Terribles. Doesn't seem funny yet, right? Because you can miss the joke. What if you take the car and you drive to the other side and you shoot it from that angle?
Take the car like an American.
Yeah, of course. It's only 10 meters, but you take the car, right? Don't say that, Annewiek. That's not nice. We're Dutch people. We take the bike or we walk. Now look at this terrible McDonald's. Now we don't like fast food, but McDonald's is not terrible. Okay, maybe it is. But it's those two companies next to each other, Terribles and McDonald's. And I really think that Terribles must be a joke from somebody that was high as a kite.
It's a car store, right? Or
I don't know what it is, but
car accessories?
I think the guys were high as whatever, and they were just sitting there. You know what, cool, if we name a store Terrible, because everybody will think it's terrible. So why would you name your store like that? Maybe it's the name of the family. But I thought Terrible next to McDonald's, it's just funny. Okay, know your locations. We always ask people like, where can we go? And sometimes we go to tourist areas, like for example this. And the thing is why I shot this. This is the Heart Attack Grill in Las Vegas.
It's a gas station.
Ah, it's a gas station, Terribles. And whenever you go in there, you get a physician's note. You have to wear a coat. You get, for example, if you drink wine, we didn't drink wine, you get it from these little driplets that you normally have in a hospital. And the thing that really struck me was everybody's going into it, but everywhere when you look at the posters, you can see bypass, you can see all the movie posters are changed. Everything in that restaurant is different. So whenever you go there, go to the Heart Attack Grill. But the funniest thing is, if you don't eat your plate, you get spanked. But the thing that we found the most interesting was that if you weigh 350 pounds, you get your dinner for free. But now comes the kicker. And this will drive you insane if you think about it. So let's say I weigh 370 pounds. I don't, but let's say I weigh 370 pounds. So I'm 20 pounds overweight to get a free dinner. So come up there. In a public area, I have to stand on a scale where everybody can see me. So that's also the thing that I wouldn't do for 10 euros, even if I'm way below that. Okay, 370 pounds. You get a free meal. So I get my free meal. And now I say, I want another meal. You have to stand on the scale again. Do they really think you lose weight while eating? And that's the fun part. And that's why we take shots like this and we want to experience it. And every time we see the images, those stories come back. Another thing, of course, I love horror movies. And one of the horror movies that I grew up with, of course, is Poltergeist, but another one is Amityville. And there are many remakes of Amityville, and of course the real one is still the best. And Amityville for me is still like the whole stuff where what were their names? Lorette and
Lane, something with Lane.
nee, Lorette and
Elaine.
no, I don't remember. But there's two ghost hunters. They're very, very famous. Everybody knows them probably. They made a lot of movies, including The Hunting in Connecticut and Amityville. They were also connected to. And Amityville for me always has something like that story sounds so convincing and so real. Also, when you hear all those talks about it.
Ed and Lorraine.
Ed and Lorraine Warren, that was it. And I just wanted to go there. And the thing was, Amityville is at Ocean Drive, but the number isn't correct. In the movie, they changed the number. On the internet, you can find the real number. So we were going like, okay, we go to Amityville, we want to find the house. Now, if you don't want somebody to find your house, if you have a haunted house, you make sure that it doesn't stand out because you know the number doesn't fit, right? And all those houses look a little bit the same, old colonial, they changed stuff around. So I could never find the Amityville house if it wasn't clear. So they changed the number. I believe it's number 18 instead of 20. I don't remember. Trust me, the Amityville house, you will find without any doubt because all the houses look the same. All the gardens are the same. Everything looks very, very the same. The houses are different, but you can't spot the Amityville house. So we drove up Ocean Drive, and that was this one house with a big gate. Don't come here, we're not haunted, stay away, stay away. And I was going like, that's the house, we found it. And we shot it from here, and somehow it didn't work for me. So I made it black and white, it didn't work for me. And then we went to the other side of the pond, and we shot it from that area. And now you see a little bit of that the eyes of the house. And I really liked it from this side. I did zoom in and I didn't see any ghosts. Now, here you see a rescue helicopter. And you might wonder like, hey Frank, how did you get shots like this, man? Because you can't get that close, right, with a rescue. No, you can't. This isn't real. Well, it is real. It's not Adobe Firefly or whatever. This is real. We were in, I believe it was Denmark or Norway. And we always put out a call like, hey, are there any local photographers that want to show us around? Really nice. We made a lot of good friends with this. And he had a boat, and he said, a friend of mine has a new helicopter. And they are going to test out the helicopter for the first time. I was going, your friend has a new helicopter?
It was a practice for
yeah, it was a practice
helicopter. Yeah.
But he said, a friend of mine has a new helicopter, and he didn't say it was a rescue. I said, okay, so what does he do with the helicopter? He said, well, he's part of the rescue force, and they're going to do a test tomorrow. Do you want to see it? Do you want to bring your camera? I kid you not, it was so amazing to shoot this from so close. And this is all shot with the 24-70 and the 7200, but most of the times I just used the 24-70. Bad conditions, a lot of people stay in when it's raining. No, go out, because you get amazing shots. Look at this, people don't really look at you. They are just busy with staying dry. You get the most amazing shots, like she's getting wet and the dog is getting an umbrella. So bad weather for me is absolutely awesome. And of course, a lighthouse, you can always shoot it with nice weather. Why not shoot it with bad weather? And with snow, sometimes you don't see the snow falling. Use again compression. Compress everything together and you see the snowflakes, even if there's not a lot. A poor guy. Shot from the window, by the way, this. Way too wet. Red light district in Amsterdam. This was during a photo walk for Scott Kelby. And this is one of the things that I want to address. And please don't fall into this trap. We were walking for, I think, the idea was 90 minutes. I think we were 45 minutes in from Central Station. So we were walking Central Station 45 minutes that way. The idea for me was to go one block further and then walk around and go back to Central Station. It was raining cats and dogs. I'm not gonna tell it was okay. No, it wasn't. Literally, you felt like you were under a shower. I started out with 50 people. I ended up with only 5. Everybody, after about 45 minutes, said, we're gonna go back. You know the weird thing is, if you stayed 5 minutes longer, you would have done the whole photo walk, took great images, and you were wet anyway. As a photographer, you sometimes have to accept the washer will wash, the dryer will dry, but you get the shots. And maybe you get sick, but probably not, because nobody ever gets sick from rain. But you get those shots and you're wet anyway, so just keep shooting. Annewiek hates it when it's really raining and I'm outside because he doesn't take photos. And then you want to go in as fast as possible. But as a photographer, rain is one of the most beautiful places to shoot because you get all the reflections in the, how do you call it, in the roads. I just love bad conditions. Okay, if you have any questions, by the way, leave them in the comments because we are reading the comment section. This was, by the way, the first time I shot with a Sony camera. And the thing that blew me away are actually the signs, as you can see here. When I shot this with my previous camera, I'm pretty sure that those signs would be blown out because it didn't have that dynamic range. Nowadays, all cameras have that dynamic range. But this was the first time that I was able to shoot in pretty dark situations and still get, by just lowering the highlights, get those signs back. And if you see that for the first time, the dynamic range just blew me away. And ever since, I've been using Sony. Same here. Theme parks. Now, you can go to a theme park and just shoot images, but I want to do something special, and I hate theme parks. So I started experimenting with different angles. And these are other, I just hope that you guys experience it the way that we do. Just get the tips out of it. Again, I'm a mediocre street and travel photography, but I just want to show you the tips. So lower angles, nice, how do you call it, retouching, tinty images, find the right angles. And I'm actually combining everything that I said now in the theme park shots. So different angles, not shooting it from a straight angle, but laying on the floor, aiming your camera up. You're getting such different images and you don't see people walking around. Of course, you have to shoot universal. Some action shots. Also the close-ups, you see the difference. Close-ups are way better, but what do you shoot? You first shoot the whole street and you walk away, and then later on, if you know the set a little bit better, you start to close up, and I like these shots way better. But as mentioned, I love Universal Monsters. So when I saw the Universal Monsters, I stayed there for I think an hour and took some portraits of my favorite monsters. Using reflections through the windows, using light, using angles by walking around. For example here, placing it nicely, so you have two together. Chucky, of course, Chucky, we love Chucky. Reflections, Frankenstein. But what about if you see Alfred Hitchcock? You can of course shoot his mom, but what if Alfred is in the back? Like, just change your angle slightly. And I think one of the problems I had a lot when I started out with these kinds of photography is that I shot too fast. I saw it, I took the shot, and then later on, don't yawn. And later on, I went back home and I was going like, I don't like these shots. I don't know why, but I don't like it. And sometimes I went to a great location, like for example on a mountain or with a waterfall, and I came home and I couldn't find those images. The only images I found were some really boring shots of a waterfall. And then I realized like, hey, those were those shots. And at that point you just go like, don't do it like that, but try to zoom in, try to use wide angles, try to freeze motion, use an ND filter. You start to be more creative, and then those shots really come to life. And I just love colors, as you can see here. Comics, without any doubt, my favorite subject when I'm in America. I always love to visit those comic book stores. And I always take pictures, and sometimes you end up in places like this. And let's be honest, this is just awesome, right? This is a comic book area in, I believe, New York. To give you an idea, some people will go like, yeah, but it's junk, right? Now imagine this, one of those boxes, only one, can contain for $1 million in comics. Let that drive in. One box can contain $1 million. I was going through one of those boxes, going through some older Easy Comics, and literally there were like 250 in there, going like 50 bucks, 60 bucks, 70 bucks, 110, 300 bucks, 600 bucks, 500 bucks, 15. That's one. So I cut those ones out. But comic books are very expensive, and then especially when you see it in an area like this, you just go like, oh my God, I can walk around here for hours. Now I have to be honest, this area is normally off limits, and somebody told me about it. It's in an industrial warehouse, and I just walked up. I just acted like I knew what I was doing, came in and he said, hey, do you have an appointment? I said, no, do I need an appointment? I thought it was just to look at the comics. No. And then I just talked like him, hey, I come from the Netherlands, I'm a huge Batman fan, I'm a huge fan of comics. And in the end he said, you know what, just go around and just look. The nice thing is I can always go back to him, and we have one of those guys also in New Jersey. That's awesome. He's always on, for example, Comic Book Man. He's one of the experts. And he's such a nice guy, and you just come in here, you talk, and every time when I come there, I take a little video for the vlog, and he always, when I leave, he always gives me like a bag of comic books, like, hey, you like Batman, right? Here you have some collectibles. And he's a really nice guy. So again, when you talk to people, you make friends, maybe not for life, but every time I come back there, he sees me, he says, hey, you're from the Netherlands, right? You're the photographer, right? Oh, we have something really cool. And then he opens up those doors. And I always compare it with Annewiek to the Raiders of the Lost Ark, where in the end they open up the doors and you see all those stuff. That's for me areas like that. It's treasure hunting. Okay, flea markets, another thing that I love. And this one is going a little bit faster because these flea markets, I just want to show you how many great shots you can take from people, from stuff. Just find those things. Color,
We do that
chaos.
in the Netherlands too.
Yeah, in the Netherlands we go to a flea market almost every week. Nowadays we don't, but before Corona we went every week. We still have to pick that up again. And it's just so much fun. You see so much junk and so much cool stuff, and mostly the people I just love. But hey, I love shooting people. And it's so funny. B.A. Baracus, we found them, in case you wonder where he was. This guy is in here. This is the only image that's in here without permission. The reason is very simple. I didn't even shoot him. I shot him after this. I was actually shooting the car next to this truck. I didn't even point my camera towards him. I shot the car next to him. But he started to curse. He started to shout. He started to curse Annewiek. He started to curse my friends. And he wanted to kick my ass. I point my camera towards him and then I took a shot. And I just shouted back at him and said, I didn't take your shot, but now I did. And I walked away. Guys, sometimes you experience very aggressive people. If you're tall like me, you can do stuff like I just said. If you're not as tall as me, keep eye contact and walk back slowly.
Well, he doesn't look that fit, so.
No, he doesn't. So probably he couldn't run harder than me.
Come after us, no.
No. But he was really, really cursing.
He was aggressive, yeah.
So colors. I just love that stuff. Let's be honest, if you see stuff like this, you just have to shoot it, right? And the fun thing with flea markets, you can do it with your cell phone. And as you can see, I always try to find interesting stuff. And flea markets are the best way to practice street and travel photography, let's be honest. It's just so different from what we see. This is, by the way, in the Netherlands. Okay, another viewpoint. Go up. Go higher.
Bridges.
Yeah, go higher or go lower. And in this case, another viewpoint can also mean another retouching. Like this, it's nice. I didn't show you the original shot where only the church was in there, but now I think I deleted that one, which is a shame because it was great for a seminar like this. But, okay, this one I have to put on. Andre van der Molen says, I'm not that tall, but never let somebody run me over. Yeah, that's true. And he says something else. I explain the AVG. Now, I don't know what Andre means with I explain the AVG. In essence,
it's about taking portraits of
the
somebody.
AVG in the Netherlands is about, and I don't know, probably everywhere, it's about privacy. And sometimes it's totally over the top. Like we run a forum for home theater and we get some email from people like, I demand for the AVG that you delete my account and all the posts that I made in the last 6 years. Yeah. You know, the AVG says that we have to be careful with privacy. We can't share your information. We can't literally just say, hey, this is his email, this is this address. But if you're on a public forum and you use the name Harry Potter 1 and you make posts, you can't demand those posts to be taken offline for the very simple reason you will destroy the structure of the forum. So what we normally do with those people is we just change the name to anonymous. Not anonymous. I don't want to have any problems with anonymous. I love you guys. Don't. You have to say that, right? Because otherwise they hack you. But we make it just anonymous. And then we just take everything out. But the AVG is often used in a way over the top area that people think they have rights for everything. You don't. But the AVG is very important for privacy. That's also why I started this seminar and said, I will never put anybody online that looks weird, except that one guy. But that's his own fault. Okay, so change the look of a shot. Now look at this. I like the shot, but what can we do with retouching? We can make it black and white. getting a little bit back to create even more of that sense of the church is really small. But also add a vignette. And the vignette is sometimes something that a lot of people forget. You often buy lenses because the lenses don't make any dark corners. And I always go like, I don't mind the dark corners. In fact, I actually add to almost all my images, I add the dark corner. So why would I buy something where it isn't there? So that's actually why we did that.
We're going over time.
Yeah, I know, so I'm going a little bit faster. Zoom in on areas, like for example this. Now with the waterfalls, the problems I had, I couldn't get it in. And the wide angles, they just didn't look right. So I started zooming in, and look at this, when you zoom in on waterfalls, it just becomes so much more interesting, so much more intense. Now this one is more like a wide angle shot, but look at this, when you zoom in, it's just so cool. Now again, place something in the front to give scale or to give something that's more interesting. Like for example here, looks nice, but if you walk a little bit to the left and you include the boats, a lot nicer. And of course with the drone, you can go up and you can take shots that nobody else can do, unless you have a drone, of course. And those shots I really like. You can't fly at night, so be careful. This is Urk, and this is one of the things that I love to do with the drone. You can, of course, with the 12 megapixel, you can't take really great shots. But my drone, and most drones, will have a panoramic option. So we just fly up at about 50 meters. You don't have to go that high. And you do panoramic shot, 24 shots, and you stitch them together. And you get a super high resolution image where you can zoom into infinity and you get everything in. If I want to shoot something like this with the 12 megapixel, I don't know how it's with you guys, but I'm always sweating when I'm flying my drone. I'm afraid of heights, and somehow I think that translates not very well, to be honest. And I'm always nervous when I shoot with a drone. So I don't want to go 100 meters high and 1 kilometer out of the sea to take that shot. No, I would much rather be 50 meters high that I can still see my drone, which is, by the way, prohibited by law that you don't see your drone. So in other words, you have to see your drone. But then stitch everything together and you get a great shot like this. So yeah, panoramic shots are awesome. Again, roads. I just love roads. This is Emmeloord. This is a funny story. Yeah, really funny story. That building I always knew. And with my previous drone, I took many, many shots of that building, and we used it in the vlogs to fly around to give some access from, hey, this is from Emmeloord. But you know that there are drones that have 2 lenses. One lens that's a little bit wider and one lens that's a little bit longer. Yeah, that's my drone. And it doesn't have 2 lenses, and that's the part where I went wrong. I can set my drone up for video to do the whole sensor, which is a little bit wider, and a little bit cropped, and then it will look a little bit closer. Now, I was used to my old drone like, well, I knew everything about that drone. I knew exactly how far to go back, done. So I was filming the building of Emmeloord, and I knew exactly if I go back and I see Emmeloord like this, a little bit wider, and then I have to be careful about the trees behind me. You feel it coming, right? But let me first do something that's fun. The tulips, great, like drones. You know the problem with drones? Yeah. Yeah. So
stuck in a tree.
Yeah, the problem was that with my normal lens, with my old drone, I could probably get 50 meters more to the back. The new drone, the only thing I saw was I was filming and I immediately saw whoop, and then I saw the drone twisting around on my video. I just looked up and then I heard this message. Warning! Object! Warning! The only thing I thought about, like, why didn't you tell me this 20 seconds earlier? So at first I said to Annewiek, can you come with a ladder because my drone is in a tree? And she said, how high is it? And I said, yeah, forget about the ladder. We asked the fire department, they didn't want to come, only if it's a cat. Yeah, only if it's a cat. Or a person. So in the end we rented a hoogwerker.
I'm looking at
a machine, and including the guy operating it, and he still had trouble getting there because it was about 50, now he said it was 25 meters high. So yeah, with drones...
A cherry picker? I don't know.
I don't know. So with drones, guys, if you have a new drone, make sure you practice before you start filming with dangerous areas.
Remember, the drone doesn't have eyes in the back or a backwards camera.
It does actually now.
Now it does?
Yes, but it was a little bit too late. The planes. Now, of course, planes, trains and automobiles, travel is always cool. But why not shoot images from the plane? Now, of course, we all shoot images like this, right? Where you see the city, where you see the wing, and this. Now, this one, you may not shoot all the time, because you maybe don't even know that it is possible. So what did I do here? I actually almost got kicked off the plane for this, in mid-flight, imagine that. Now, you know that after 9/11, we were actually in Indianapolis at 9/11, was our first trip to America. So, yeah, talk about great trip, not. The thing about it is that people are very nervous now on planes, still. And I'm always nervous on a plane, so yeah. I wanted to take that shot, and I just had this new Huawei camera with great night shot capabilities. And I was just thinking, like, I need a 30-second window to shoot. So at first, all the lights were still on in the plane, so I was going like, okay, pressed it up to the window, took a 30-second exposure. It looked absolutely stunning. The only problem was I saw all the lights from the plane, and it just, no, it took me out of that image, and I wanted it total black, like you see here. So like, how can I make it dark? How can I make it dark? And I had a seat actually next to the window, and Annewiek was sitting next to me, and there was nobody else. So it was a two-seater emergency exit. No, it was economy comfort. So the front two were only two, and after that everybody was 3 or 4. And I was, how can I make it dark? How can I make it dark? And one of the things you get is that pillow and a blanket. I was just going like, why not? So put my phone against the window, took a pillow, pushed it against, and used the blanket to cover it up. And I was just leaning against the window like this. 30-second exposure, looked, yeah, it looks great. Take another one. And then the stewardess was coming next to me. Sir,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? I was going like, yeah, I know this looks really weird. Don't panic. Sir, I am panicking a little bit. What are you doing with the window? And I showed her the image, and she was going like,
oh, wow.
Oh, that looks really nice. She said, but the next time when you do something like this, can you please inform us that you do something with the window? Because we were literally talking in the galley, like, what the hell's going on there? We thought you were literally just covering up that you open up the windows or something. I said, no, sorry, no. So when you do something like that, maybe talk to the stewardess and say, hey, I want to take a picture. Can I use the pillow? Next time I do something like that, I will absolutely tell her that. Johannesburg, just combining some shots from the car because it was very dangerous to get out. Angles, zooming in. This was all with the 24 to 240. And this is just to show you when you drive around how many different shots you can get in about an hour or two.
But this was somebody else driving?
Yeah, this was somebody else driving.
They drive on the wrong side of the road?
Yeah, I always compare this to the McDonald's or the Febo in the Netherlands, where you just pick one and they will prepare it. I don't know if it's healthy. I would not do it, but this was literally, you pick your chicken, they pluck it, and they barbecue it. It's insane. I could never do that. I feel bad for the chicken. Or my stomach, probably. So this was all shot through the car window in maybe an hour or two. Just driving around. Of course, friends driving around and me shooting. And this was, of course, with the hop-on, hop-off tour. But again, you see the roads, you see... The reason I'm showing you these images is because I want to make sure that you see that I combine all those techniques. Now, this one is interesting. This is not shot during the hop-on, hop-off tour. I did the hop-on, hop-off tour, and I got a real impression of Johannesburg, that it was a city in, how do you call that, building up, in progress, very progressive, very touristy friendly. And I talked to friends of mine who lived there for 25, 30 years. And he said, yeah, that's what I tell the tourists. And those are great guys. And maybe they're watching now. If they are, thank you so very much for showing us around in Joburg. We had a great time. And I think his wife actually did Balls Over America with leather balls that they give to the children to play soccer. And he said, I will take you to some place where you can see the real problems and the real people, but most of all, what you think problems. And he took me to this little town, and there was only one family living there, and you actually see the family here. They were super, super nice, but in all honesty, I would not want to live there because it was really dirty. Not human possible to live there, I thought. And then you talk to the chief. No, it's not the chief. I think that's a wrong expression for it. The father de familia, right? The main character. And you talk about, and you say, yeah, I feel a little bit bad that I take pictures, but I'm a photographer and I love to photograph stuff that's going on. And the only thing I can say, I hope you guys will do better in the future. And thank you so very much for showing us around. We got some great shots. He actually looked at me and he said, oh, don't feel bad for us. This is the way we love to live. We're proud of this. We love it. And that did give me a totally different look. And most people will probably not say that, but they were really in their element. They loved it. And also when you talk to the people there, I took some shots, they're laughing, they're playing around. For them, it's really normal. And I think that's the cool thing about travel. You come into situations where you actually think it's really normal and it's actually really bad. And sometimes you come in situations where you go like, this is really bad. And you talk to the people and they go like, oh, we love this. We are very proud that we built this up. And again, the people were so incredibly nice. So that's know your area, but also talk to people and make friends. And you come in such beautiful locations that way. Closing thoughts. You can travel the whole world. You can go under the sea, you can go everywhere you want, but of course you need a good partner to change your lens. So in my case, that's Annewiek, of course.
And to carry your lens.
Yeah. And then when you're lucky, you see a double rainbow. And that's actually what I wanted to say. Is we just love travel. We love sharing those images with you. And Annewiek is always with me when we travel. And I hope what you get from this seminar is that travel photography can be just capturing a moment, but when you think about that moment, when you sit down, when you change your angles, when you change your lenses, when you go for wide angles and find the really interesting parts of a shot, it can be so much more than just taking photographs of a holiday. Jay Micel has this really beautiful slideshow, and the slideshow is just about his family images. When somebody tells you that I watched without music, because Jay always says if you need music for your slideshow, your images are bad. So that's why I just talk over them. When you look at his images, just from his daughter being born, growing up, his building, his wife, Annewiek saw the same presentation. You think you're going to see family shots, but you see art. And I'm nowhere near that quality. But what I did get from that is that you have to take pictures in a narrative. You have to take pictures telling a story. And you can do that with wide angles, you can do it with colors, you can do it with light. But most of all, listen to the people that live there. Listen to every story. Absorb those stories, make it one, and then you can take pictures with more understanding of that area. So, Learning with Frank is of course our website, frankdorff.com. Please join us on our YouTube channel. We would really appreciate that. But most of all, tell other people about our channel so we can grow. I think the YOLO box did it really well. It's cool that I see all the comments here, and there were a lot of comments.
Yeah, but nothing really important.
No questions.
Thank you all. The next digital classroom will be on June 28th, I think, and it's gonna be about the new Giotto.
Yeah, we have really cool new strokes. Giotto. Yes. We have really new cool strokes from Giotto. We did the first look actually this weekend, and I was totally blown away by them. For the pricing, it's just an insane quality. And we recently did today and yesterday actually, we did a stability test, flash duration test and color accuracy test, and they passed with flying colors. When you look at the brochure, they say certain flash durations, they're all on the low side. We metered like 2-3 times faster, so that's very, very cool. And yeah, we're gonna do a whole workshop with the Giottos and just showing you what you can do in the studio with those really small strokes. It's a little bit of a mix between, you know it, I'm explaining stuff to you guys that you already know. It's not a speed light, it's not a studio strobe, it's that spot in the middle. It's a do-it-all strobe. And the other thing, of course, that's really important is our Patreon side. Now you see it under here, the Patreon. Join us there. It's really important for us because we give you all this material for free, and for $1 a month you help us out, and that really helps out a lot, and you help out yourself. You see behind the scenes videos, you see behind the scenes photos. Every month you see at least 1 or 2 portfolio reviews where I take one of your images, go through Photoshop and show you everything that I would do in it, and that means that I don't point out mistakes, but I show you a whole retouch process. And the cool thing is that you can see an image where you go like, wow, this looks really great. like for example, Alison, she always gets these really creative shots where you go like, I don't know what I have to do with this. So I started asking Alison, can you please not send me only the images? Because at one point I'm done. I can't give you any more advice, but I need the raw files. And then she said like, sure, I'm going to send you the raw files. And you know what I do with the raw files? I first discuss her image. And it's awesome always, it's great. But there are little things that you could change. And then what I do, I open up the raw file, I forget everything that's seeded, and I create a whole new retouch. And then you put the two next to each other. And that's so much fun. So for $1 a month, you can watch that and interact and ask questions. And I believe at $10 a month, you can also send in images. And every month, I will do a portfolio review for you. So join us on Patreon, or just join us on our YouTube channel, or just tell people about it so they can join our channel and we can grow. I don't see any questions anymore. I think if you have any questions, just leave them now. Otherwise, we're going to close the broadcast.
Find us on social media and send us an email. We do have some tickets left for the photo fair. It's June...
Somewhere in June?
No, it's June 10 and 11th. It's in Eersel by Eindhoven. And those are only tickets for the show. So not for the workshop, just for the fair and looking around, see all those amazing things they organized. And if you want a ticket, let me know.
Yeah, and those tickets are free?
Those tickets are free, yeah.
Okay, so that's not for the workshop, but for the fair?
For the fair. You can walk around. They've like the steampunk guys and dragons.
Dragons, yes.
Horses, dogs.
And a lot of manufacturers like Canon, K&F Concept. We're going to be there with Decoto and of course IQ Wire and ClickPro backdrops and of course Rogue. The other thing that's nice, we do have for the workshops, I think we have 2 seats left on the Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And you have to book those workshops. And the cool thing is on the photo days, on the photo fair, I'm going to try to do all the seminars with literally 3 light sources. So we're going to use the Hensel strobes, we're going to use the Gigotos, and we're going to use continuous lighting, all in one set. I still have to figure out if we're going to do that in the morning and afternoon sessions, if I can cram it in. But I want to show that you can create all the great images with any light source. So if you use smaller strobes, bigger strobes, or even continuous lighting, you can do it. So that's, I think, very interesting.
The topic is from fashion shot to killer shot. So Claudia is our model. You know Claudia, and she's really terrific.
So she starts out with a nice dress and she ends with a knife?
No.
Yeah, you say from fashion to killer.
Killer shot, yeah. So.
Oh, she's going to end with a gun?
No.
Killer shot. It's late.
You're gonna show her. You're gonna show the viewers how to make
of course.
Killer shot.
Thanks. Time to enjoy adult beverage. Now, Eric, can you please tell me what an adult beverage is?
I think it's beer.
Okay, and Paul Lucas says, I like 2 tickets. Okay, Paul.
Oh, thank you so much, Paul. I will email them tonight.
Ah, Trevor, thank you so very much. I've been watching you in the background while working. Thanks again for an interesting show today.
Don't work too hard. We don't.
Trevor, take an adult beverage. Ask Eric what it means. Okay, guys, thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I do want to say one thing, and that's the closing. I want to say hi to Desiree. She was this morning in our studio for a photo shoot with her family.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Lovely family.
Lovely family. I know that you made it home at time to watch this.
Yeah.
So I will send you the images maybe tonight and the latest tomorrow night, and you're going to love those images. I already looked at them. You're going to love them. They're really nice. So thank you so very much for being in our studio today. Guys, thank you so very much for watching. See you again next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.